This guy's got an insane stash of gachas. He can command an ancient dragon and bend it to his will, capable of smashing a whole mountain in a single, earth-shaking blow. He can crank his allies' power up to 4 times. He can force plants to surge out of the ground and grow way faster than they ever should. Before I ruin the fun, let's kick off the tale. Hiro's mother clutched him close, guessing what kind of person he'd become, and he swore he'd grow up to be a superhero. His father leaned in and told him, "That's not magic, this takes hard work." And all he wanted for him was one thing: be kind, help people when they're hurting or desperate, just like the poem in his hands promised. But when he finally grew up, after 10 grueling years, the company finally cut him loose. The hero couldn't believe it. Hashikawa, his boss, was yapping about something that didn't make sense, especially since the hero was only 20. Hashikawa snapped back that it's nothing dramatic, just a straightforward reshuffle because the company's in serious trouble. But Hiro sacrificed his weekends and chewed through endless overtime. There's no way he can just drop this on him out of nowhere. Whining won't change a thing, so is he really hinting that he's about to bite the hand that fed him? Hiro will never forget that Hashikawa hired him even while he was still cramming for exams after his father died in that accident, and he knows it's the one thing that let him keep his sister afloat. Right before he passed, his father bragged about him with pure pride, claiming his son was sharp and hardworking, so brilliant even in high school that his knowledge could stand toe-to-toe with the CEO of a huge corporation. If the hero wants to turn that knowledge loose right now and make it count, then he'd basically need to die and get reborn just to stand a chance. Hiro clenched his arms so hard that it felt like he was trying to hold himself together. And he bowed his head to thank Hashikawa for the last 10 years. Hashikawa shot up because a big meeting was calling, told Hiro to finish the document and leave it on his desk after he was done. The hero stormed out of the company building. He was still building when a message from his sister hit him, and she lit his world up. She'd gotten the job, she could finally stand on her own, and she thanked him for taking care of her all this time, and he just smiled, sighed, and went quiet like his father always did, too. He should thank every act of kindness and pay back every favor he's been given. Because when you live like that, the good you put out somehow comes back around, and yeah, it doesn't always have to be for him. Because that's the kind of man he's determined to become, strong enough to protect others, kind enough to care. That book in his hands, the compass his parents left behind to steer his whole life, hits him in the moment, and then he spots a kid sprinting across the street. While that truck thundered through, he sprinted straight for the kid and shoved him out of the way at the last second, causing him to get hit instead. Hiro swallowed his fate and kept living honestly, never once pointing the finger, just enduring it all, and this is the price he finally pays. Still, he can't help it. He's just relieved that the kid is finally okay. He'd swear it from the bottom of his heart, and he's certain that's the reason. He still remembers the poem hiding in the book his parents left behind. With a steel-hard body that never flinched at snow or scorching heat, he kept a calm, quiet smile on his face, no greed in his heart, no anger in his blood, living on 4 bowls of brown rice, a bit of miso, and a handful of vegetables every day, always placing himself last, watching and listening until he truly understood, and then never forgetting. We lived crammed in a tiny thatched roof hut under the pines, so when someone in the south is dying, you rush in and swear they've got nothing to fear. When a sick kid sits in the east, you scoop them up and nurse them back. When a tired mother lies in the west, you shoulder her rice bundle and carry it. And if quarrels or lawsuits rear their heads in the north, you tell them to quit their foolish nonsense. Tears streamed down her face in a brutal drought, and the whole world still called her a fool. Neither cheered nor noticed. No one seemed to see them at all, like a shadow that nobody bothered to carry. That's who he truly believes he has become. His name used to be Hiro Ejima, but somewhere along the way, he shed that identity and became someone else. And just like that, he's the 13-year-old Hiro Rothwell on the very day he gets reincarnated into a brand new world. Welcome to the Rothwell territory, right inside the kingdom of Asgard. He was born the oldest twin son of the mighty ruling Rothwell family, an elite noble house and one of the royal knight's twin shields. This life isn't like his old one. Every luxury imaginable is at his fingertips, yet as the heir to this domain, he can't just celebrate because something is still holding him back. Right then, Rothwell Mari's son and the Rothwell family's second-born showed up beside him and demanded what he was staring at, then muttered that it wasn't anything, just that something about this town had been haunting him. Their birthday party is buzzing, so why does Mari-san feel like something's off? it's the sheer mountain of merchant carts. The hero leaned in and told Mari's son to stare harder. Every one of those carts was owned by outsiders, and if he caught them as they rolled out, he'd see the truth. They were all empty. It means the trade flow inside their territory has totally ground to a halt, and if this keeps going, their people's livelihoods will collapse. Even the head maid was venting nonstop. Shortages had prices sky high, and now she couldn't even grab the daily necessities anymore. Mari's son snapped back, saying the cataclysm from the year she and everyone else was born supercharged their land. Crops grow in half the time, so they're allowed to skim just half the revenue as taxes. That one assumption was the whole problem, and it ruined everything. Mari's son scratched the back of his head and groaned, "This is way too complicated for me, because if nothing changes, then something horrible is absolutely going to happen. Before that can happen, he has to tear through these crushing taxes and save his people, because as the eldest son, only he has the power to do it. Soon, the gods will hand him a divine oracle, and with it, he'll gain powers to rule and command the battlefield, and with everything he remembers from his past life, he's determined to change everything. This oracle, it's his first move." Mari's son bolted forward, shouting at Hiro to hurry to the church, because if they were late, they'd miss the oracle ceremony, and nobody wanted that. Then he broke into a grin as he faced. But the second he turned his back, he clenched his teeth through the pain anyway. Inside the Holy Church Cathedral, right in the Chamber of Oracles, Oliver Rothwell, Lord of the Rothwell House, stood shoulder to shoulder with the High Priest and lit into the two for showing up late. Then Mari's son stammered an apology because they'd been too busy talking and completely lost track of time. Oliver barreled up to Hiro, saying he didn't carry himself like an heir and warning him that their family's future hinges on the heir's oracle right here, right now. The divine oracle is a God-sent revelation given when you come of age, and when it finally arrives, it shows itself to you as a sacred text. 4 big revelations could come from the heir, 2 tied to power over governance, and 2 ruled by pure military might. The high priest finally kicked off the rite of the oracle, commanding everyone to crack open the sacred texts and unleash their prayers. Hiro's hero cracked open the book, and right behind him, an angelic apparition burst into view. Hiro shut his eyes as his countless scrolls rained down around him like a storm. The high priest stared in shock as that revelation hit him with raw power. Then he cracked their meaning open piece by piece. 2 texts of governance sit side by side, and it looks like their harvest is still set to stay fat and bountiful. Wait, so this one's a gacha? Hiro blurted out what kind of revelation a gacha even was it some fresh military text? But the high priest had never seen anything like it, so he grabbed that revelation and decided to test what it really was. He snapped on the all-seeing eye, and the moment it kicked in, pain tore through him and he groaned. Pain ripped through him and he crumpled to the ground. And somehow, that cursed text feels like it pushes back even the eye of God. He shot up and told Oliver just how deadly serious this situation was. What if their heir was dragged away by a demon? Oliver snapped that if it really happened, what would become of their name and place in the kingdom? Because the high priest was sure their family would fall apart fast, just like that. Oliver couldn't stop wondering if there was anything at all he could do. And the high priest leaned in, telling him to exile the hero to a god-forsaken frontier and pick a new successor to take his place. It's a brutal choice, but he's convinced it's the only way forward. Until right then, Mari's son shouts at his father that the whole idea of Hiro being the eldest is wrong from the start, and Oliver is already reaching to shut him up. He surged forward, then slammed on the brakes when he spotted the scrolls Mari's son was clutching. The very words and the air around them should carry that weight, and now there's one more scroll Mari's son begged the high priest to examine. It's the sacred scripture of the Maxwells, the fabled sword of protection, and this moment was nothing short of a miracle. With this bombshell, Oliver can finally see it. Independence for their territory is within touching distance. He clamped his hands onto Marison's shoulders, showered him with praise for a job perfectly done, just like any proud father would expect from his firstborn son. When he heard that, Hiro snapped back. He insisted he's the eldest son. But he froze solid the second he saw his father and brother wearing expressions so disgusted, it was like they couldn't stand the sight of him. If they just banish the hero right now, they'll drag dishonor onto their family names forever. Mari's son stepped in and offered to take him in, giving him a territory to run, because it looked like he genuinely wanted to get his hands on politics. The hero couldn't swallow it, he refused to accept it. Still, his father Oliver had already made up his mind. The hero stared speechless. Was his father actually serious? Since Hiro's going to be Marison's adopted brother, he's dead set on keeping that land out of Amir's hands, because there's no way he'd trust it to one of his subordinates. So Oliver made a bold choice. He granted Vile Wood as the hero's domain. Hero clenched his arm tight, one old reflex he carried over from his past life. He dropped to one knee and seized the brutal duty of ruling over that vile wood. Oliver looked bothered by what he'd just done, but he swallowed the feeling and refused to let it show. The high priest finally sealed the Rothwell family's claim to the oracle's right. Oliver strode past Hero, and the two of them knew they had to get ready for a massive feast, because the heir's successful revelation had finally come. He demanded Mari's son, but right before he stepped out, Mari's son dropped into a crouch to meet the hero at eye level, because this was probably their final shot to speak. He's always hated that hero, like, why wouldn't he? Everyone fawns over him just because he was born just a few minutes earlier. Mari's son patted Hiro's head with a warm smile, but the words he'd spoken still sliced straight through his heart. Before he could stand up and say his goodbyes, the hero shot up too, insisting, "This isn't the end, trust me, we'll meet again." Even in this world, his compass still points the same way, and it all kicks off right here, because his real life as the lord of this land starts now. Slung a monstrous backpack over his shoulders, like he was ready to take on the world. The hero charged through the forest, but the deeper he went, the more he looked like he'd lost his way. At this rate, it's gonna play out exactly like Mari's son warned. He's got to race to the territory and fast. First, his territory, the Vile Wood, is rumored to be brutal, sitting right next to monster-choked zones where trade and farming just can't take root. He's back in life with a mind full of memories from his past, and that knowledge is exactly what he'll need to rescue his struggling people. Plus, if everything falls apart, he's got a final backup plan ready to go. As he strode down the path, Hero suddenly clocked in. An injured person slumped against a tree, and a bad feeling hit him. Something was seriously wrong, and hurried up to the heavily breathing woman to demand, "Hey, are you okay?" He jostled her shoulder, calling out to see if she could hear him, and when she didn't react, he went ahead and moved her. Her hero cradled her to the ground, then froze at the sight of the deep wound across her back. This was way past anything a rookie could fix, and there wasn't a doctor anywhere nearby. He dug through his backpack, fingers flying, praying something in there could actually save him. And with that, he snatched the elixir, because this is his last shot to save her. He yanked the bottle open and guided the woman's lips to every sip. His grandfather handed him this elixir to celebrate his birth, no matter what injury or illness tried to take him down. One single sip and boom, it fully heals him. A miraculous magical potion straight from legend. It's so priceless that one noble could live like royalty forever with a single bottle, his only real treasure, and his final weapon when he starts hitting dead ends while trying to control the territory. But then it hit him. He remembered the poem from the book he used to read in his past life, so he made the choice to step in and help the woman. As the woman gulped down the elixir, Master Hero's blessings just kicked in. Nightingale surged, boosting healing magic by 4x, and divine hands followed through, cranking the healing power even higher. With the help of these two blessings, the woman's injury started healing at lightning speed. Hero finally exhaled in relief. What an insane effect that was. Like his whole life depended on it, he shoved every last yen into the deal. Then, from way across the room, he suddenly spotted a book. Up close, the cover decoration isn't just worn, it's marked like it's been used asterisk, and the damage doesn't stop at the woman's body. It looks more like a real skill, maybe good deeds or divine revelation. Whatever, for now it looks like she's still breathing, saved for the moment, but it's a total disaster besides the body. So yeah, he figured he'd handle it while he still had the chance. After what felt like forever, she finally jerked awake. Clutching her breath, he couldn't stop wondering where she'd gone. She spun to the side and froze, stunned, when Hero leaned in and asked how her body was feeling. She blinked, realizing her hood was gone, then threw on whatever she could to cover herself and shot Hiro a panicked question about what he did while she was asleep. He knelt there, stitching her torn hood back together, then handed it right back to her, and demanded to know if he was the one who saved her. The hero threw out his name and broke down the details for everyone. He told me he was heading straight for a territory just up ahead, Then he stumbled on her, collapsed on the ground, badly injured. No doctor was anywhere near, so he slapped on the medicine he had in his bag, yet she refused to trust a word he said. She blames him for it. Humans snatch demi-humans and chain them up as slaves, and now she's sure he's either running a slave ring or rolling with a bandit crew. The Rothwell family is one of Asgard Kingdom's greatest noble houses, serving the knights, and there's no way they'd step out here without even one loyal attendant. There's just no medicine on Earth that can stitch up a wound that deep. She froze mid-sentence when she spotted a bottle rolling across the floor. Its decoration and crest screamed it was the real empty elixir bottle. He only had one bottle in his hand, so when it finally worked, he couldn't help but breathe a huge sigh of relief. She seemed eerily calm now, but inside she couldn't stop the question. Why would he spend a fortune on a potion like that for a beastkin he doesn't even know? Hiro leaned in and asked, "Is it weird that I'm helping someone who's seconds away from dying? And swear that this elixir isn't worth nearly as much as a single precious life." The woman shot him a stunned look, like she couldn't believe what she was seeing before she burst into laughter, because that's the first time she's ever seen a noble say something like that with a dead serious face. Honestly, I don't even know if he still counts as a noble anymore. Because of what happened, he couldn't stay with the family anymore, so they handed him an adopted heir title and sent him to run a territory out ahead. And honestly, she's stuck in a pretty similar mess too. She's stuck out here in this forest because she's the clan's disgrace. Amelia, from the Workadir tribe, carries a clan tradition everyone lives by: repay every debt no matter what, and she can't even figure out how she's supposed to settle it, especially when the payment is an elixir. At that exact moment, her ears flicked like radar making. She spun around and Hiro shot back, "What's wrong?" Amelia shot back that enemies were nearby, and they weren't the ones who'd hurt her. She's pointing at those cowards lurking behind the bushes. Then the thugs step out and start clicking their tongues like they own the place. When they finally laid eyes on Hiro, they figured he was just some stuck-up noble kid on his own. Then they realized he wasn't alone at all, because a beastkin servant stood right by his side. Bandits, no doubt about it. And the way that man in front was blabbing, it was clear the heroes thought they'd come for him. Amelia begged Hiro to let her start paying him back sooner, just a little at a time. She's going to yank their focus away, so he better bolt the second she does. She couldn't stop wondering if she could really pull off taking all those alone, and she refused to believe she could make it. The Workadir tribe is famous for slaughtering in battle, but she's one of the clan's weakest. So if bandits show up, she's probably done for before it even starts. Still, she'll snag him the time he needs to slip away, so she lunges forward, as the heroes snatch her from behind, while the band is gearing up to strike back. The black-haired guy in front clenched his fist and went in to throw a punch. But the moment he activated Danger Sense, a skill that sniffs out every threat in a full 360-degree radius, everything changed. Amelia shot in, dodged his strike, and clamped onto his wrist hard. It knocked him hard to the ground. She's a proud warrior from the cat ear tribe. No pampered pet species could ever compare to her. The bandits think she's alone, so if we swarm her, it won't matter that she's from the Warheart and Cat Ear tribe. The blonde guy and the Mohawk dude sprang up together, and they lunged at her from behind. After three-dimensional maneuvering kicked in and boosted her burst speed fourfold, she snapped out of the way, then clambered onto a tree branch as the bandits underneath started to grumble. She didn't let them finish a single word, then dropped in fast and drove kicks straight for their heads. Fatty was the last bandit standing, and he was still dumb enough to charge straight into the fight. Amelia snapped aside his fist with lightning-fast speed and drove a punch into her opponent, snapping his head to the side. Still, he played the tough guy and laughed in her face for landing that weak cat punch. So he snapped his fist up for round 2, and Fatty immediately threw his hands over his face. But Amelia snapped her kick into his balls. Bam! 1,000 damage landed. She told Hiro to bolt right now. She can't take them down, not even with every hit she lands, and before she can finish, the enemies are already wiped out. Out the chaos of Amelia. Zero laughed, bragged about her strength, and insisted that calling her weak was just way too humble. Yet it was strangely off. Her moves hit harder than ever. No, she's not just stronger, she's terrifyingly powerful. Could that elixir be messing with him in some terrifying side way? Nah, elixirs don't boost your technique proficiency at all. Suddenly, an arm clamped around Hiro's shoulder like he'd been grabbed by fate itself, and the man who just slid up to him clearly had something in mind, maybe a divine blessing for beast taming. Amelia snapped at Hiro, warning him not to move. That man was straight up deadly. Cairo leaned in and demanded, "What do you mean by that?" She admitted she couldn't feel him at all, and not a single sound reached her ears. Even with the war cat's divine gift, danger sense, they can feel everything around them like it's right in front of their eyes. He praised her blessing to her face, then snapped, "Don't get cocky. Because even humans can pull off insane tricks like that if they train hard enough." Then, in a split second, he slipped behind her while still holding Hiro. Emilio couldn't shake the question of what he'd do next, and he smirked back that, yeah, he'd settle everything the right way. He snapped around to the bandits, demanded how much longer they planned to laze around, and barked at them to get up now. They jumped up, hearts racing, thinking their boss had finally come to rescue them. Their confidence shot through the roof, so high it threatened the hero and Emilia, but just as they were about to finish their sentence, their boss was already. He dipped his head to them with respect, bowing low to apologize. Hiro and Emilia stared in disbelief, completely thrown by the sudden twist that just tore everything off its axis. That's Smirnov, he runs the bandits around here. They call themselves noble thieves and their rule is ironclad. Never lay a hand on civilians. The black-haired bandit started whining that after all of this, they're so broke they can't even buy food, talking about how they'll be stuck eating weeds and swilling booze every single day until they die. Smirnov surged to his feet and slammed a punch into his own head, daring himself to never live a life he'd feel ashamed to face before the heavens. Because that's the rule the Smirnov family lives by. Keeping his guys in line is on him and he'll say sorry the right way, once he isn't completely broke. So he pushed the idea hard, accept something else instead. Smirnov thrust a scroll into Hiro's hands, and Hiro's face instantly twisted with confusion over what on earth it was. He cracked it open and stared in shock because it was a wanted poster for Smirnov, the sword saint himself, wearing an S-rank bounty like a target painted on his back. Bounties so high they'd make an elixir look cheap, and yeah, the sword saint crown, that's the ultimate treasure for any swordsman. The bandits ranted for mercy, begging to handle the responsibility themselves, but he slammed them down without hesitation. He refused to let trash like them stay in the Smirnov family, so he kicked them out, shoved them back to their countryside, and ordered them to become farmers. Just before they go, he snaps at them, "Don't you ever come back, don't you dare show your faces to me again." Right then, Smirnov and Emilia sensed something was off, and he snapped at them to back up. But it was already far too late and a giant axe whipped through the air and sent them flying. Smirnov blurted out, completely baffled. He spun around, staring at the dead bodies of his gang lying back there, swallowed by the trail. He dashed forward, refusing to look back, then snapped his head toward the giant. A surprise minute-long tour that just bursts onto the scene out of nowhere. Emilia crumpled onto the ground and Smirnov whipped his head back like, what were they doing? They needed to get out of here right now. The Minotaur barreled straight at Hiro and Emilia, roaring out words that sounded totally impossible to understand. It hoisted its axe, one hit from that thing and they'd be finished. He slammed himself into the Minotaur's axe, vowing with everything he had that nobody was dying again. He figured Hiro must be some kind of beast tamer, so he blurted out, "Do you have a divine blessing to calm that Minotaur?" But Hiro isn't even one and he's got 0 blessings, so yeah, looks like there's no saving this. Looks like Smirnov's the only one who can handle this, so it's all on him now. He lunged sideways and barely slipped past the Minotaur's axe, the blade tearing through the air where he'd just been, and dropped right beside the two. He told Hiro to grab Emilia and get out while they still could, but Hiro snapped back. He wouldn't abandon him. Then he flinched the moment Smirnov hit him with the next line, "You've got to gamble your life when it matters most, but a real man also knows exactly when to step back." The hero froze for a beat, then pushed Emilia to run, go hunt Smirnov's men and get help. Emilia wasn't listening at all. She just muttered to herself that they followed her all the way here, and then she snapped, "At this rate, everyone's going to die." The hero snapped the clues together and it hit her. Her injury had to be from that Minotaur. She threw out a tearful apology, begged him to let her go, and told him to sprint away. Right when they think they're about to take off, Smirnov barges in and demands, "What are you doing?" And this tense standoff is about to explode. Suddenly, the Minotaur started drawing in a deep, hungry breath, snapped the nail free, and instantly unleashed a torrent of fire breath. The hero planted himself in front of Emilia and ordered her to run, then he took the hit, acting as her shield. Looks like he's about to throw his life away again to save someone in this life too. And honestly, that doesn't sound like a bad way to end it. When the fire suddenly struck the hero, he froze in shock, because it didn't burn, not even a little. Even if he can smother the flames, nothing changes. This mess is still here, still growing. He has to act, and right then his eyes slam onto that book from before. That's all he needs. That divine blessing, so cryptic even the high priest can't decode it, is the only blessing he has. He has zero clue what it does, how it works, or even if he can manage to activate it. He's got no choice but to go for it, just like the high priest warned, because even if it's dangerous, he has to try. This was the only thing he had left. It's all about the raw, explosive potential, waiting to break out. He gaped at his divine blessing, staring at it like it was everything. He steps into a divine tome lottery, earn godly blessings for doing good, and can't stop wondering what power he'll get, because all that reward comes only after self-sacrifice and brutal hardships, and once it's done, the gods log everything in the book, then unlock treasures and powers for him to claim. Hold up, this looks like a total gacha. In his old life, no matter how many times he tried, he never hit the lottery, and now he can't even afford to pause. He slammed his divine blessing into action. Divine Tome Lottery, the sacred book of destiny. Would you believe fate's about to spin the wheel? Then wham, a book dropped right onto his hand, and he blinked in shock, wondering what it could be, because it felt harmless, like it belonged to some innocent kid. That's the legendary tome of the Divine Dragon Lord. Stories say it can change everything. Did he seriously just pull off something insanely incredible? An egg burst out, exploding through a wall of talismans like they were nothing. Diving out of the Divine Dragon's Duke's scroll, I burst into it like my fate had just awakened. What happens next will blow your mind. So this is it, the Divine Dragon's egg, and if that's true. So he begged the dragon inside the eggs to be born and stand guard over them. Then he suddenly spotted the paper taped to the outside of the eggs. It's a user manual telling him the divine dragon matures way later than everyone expects, and that he has to set up the right place for it to hatch. It devours all kinds of meat. It once liked a dog-like companion, and it prefers a calm vibe, the kind where nothing triggers anger. Heroes drenched in sweat. This is way too much, because if it keeps going like this, they're all getting wiped out. He shot his head up the second that warning voice screamed, "Watch out." Right as he tried to move, a violent explosion tore through the air. Luckily, Smirnov slammed himself in front of them and took the hit with his own body. When the smoke finally cleared, he shot them a quick question, "You guys okay?" When the ground suddenly began to rumble beneath their feet. An ancient dragon awakens, one so old its legend feels carved into the world. Even Smirnov can't survive this, and taking on two of them at once is straight up impossible. That ancient dragon seethed and snapped. Why's the Minotaur blaring so loud when I'm already cranky from hunger? Maybe that cow part of the Minotaur's body got singed by his own fire breath, yet it still smells insanely delicious, even though you can't eat it. Then he cinched his tail around that neck and hurled him up into the sky. If he can't eat it, he'll blast it to ash with dragon breath. Roar of a divine dragon, and it just saved them. A dragon helping a human straight out of myth. And yeah, the ancient dragon, of course he did. What does a proud dragon get by helping some human? He only showed up because he sensed another dragon, one just like him, somewhere nearby. Then the crackling presence he felt seemed to spill right out of that egg, so he snapped, asking Hyro where he even got it, and Hyro admitted it didn't come with him at all, it just showed up. So if that's true, the ancient dragon will snatch it up and take it into his custody, because they can't just leave something like that lying on the ground. That egg is the final memento of the late Divine Dragon Duke. If humans get their hands on it, it'll stain the entire dragon race forever. Then he spun on his heel to go and shot them a reminder. He didn't save them for nothing, he still saved their lives even if it was pure chance. Right before he could fully spin back, Hero shot the question, "Can I be the one to handle it?" Because that child was a power the gods had handed to him. The ancient dragon fixed him with a vicious glare, and right after that, the ground started rumbling like it had a secret. Smirnov stood right in front of them, shouted for everyone to run, and planted himself to hold the ancient dragon back. Because when it moved, he looked like he just brushed a dragon's reverse scale. The ancient dragon shot out an apology. Then his stomach betrayed him with a loud, grumbling growl. Thanks to his fancy gourmet life, he's packed on a few pounds, so when he moves too fast, his head whirls and his joints start screaming. Right now, he's stuck on a fasting diet, and it's draining every last bit of power, leaving him with zero energy to even take flight. Smirnov scratched his head, totally fed up. What a brutal letdown then, right on cue, another growl tore through the air. This time, it came straight from Amelia's stomach. She blurted out an apology with a bright red, flustered face. Now that Hiro finally felt safe, his stomach growled like a warning, and Smirnoff felt it too. At their hideout, all they've got is wild plants and a stash of booze, so yeah, he figured it was fine, and that's why he grabbed something from his bag. It's a magical artifact Smirnoff's family has guarded for generations, packed with a whole pig's worth of meat, soy sauce, sugar, salt, and herbs that heat you up from the inside. The hero froze in shock when he saw the soy sauce. Then the ancient dragon leaned in, sniffed the bottle like it was judging it, and started wondering if this just soy was actually that legendary. The hero just smirked, telling them to hand it to him, swearing they'd never regret trusting him. They huddled up with Smirnov's men, trading tense looks as the night closed in. Gobbling up heroes like it was a feast, when the ancient dragon and Smirnov sat down, they devoured that cooking and immediately demanded, "What is this dish?" Ginger pork hits the pot, and it turns into this banded hot pot feast you can practically smell from across the room. The heroes cheered because it was exactly their kind of thrill. Amelia eyed the hot pot ingredient like it was art, raved about its texture, and then leaned in to ask, "What is this?" The hero casually snatched up a slime and declared, "This is the one," and Amelia immediately choked on her food in shock. He finally heard from a maid that it was edible, and she walked him through how to prepare it step by step, and when he tasted it, man, it was seriously delicious. With so many slimes swarming the area, the two can gorge to their heart's content. Smirnoff finally barges in mid-convo because he's been itching to ask them something. This place is so deadly even seasoned adventurers steer clear. So why in the world was a noble strolling in here like it was nothing? The hero was sprinting to his assigned domain when right in the path, he spotted Amelia collapsed and helpless. After Smirnoff asked what happened, Amelia snapped back that they'd branded her as the disgrace of her clan, basically a prove you're strong test or something just like that. So you're telling me she just picked a minotaur for a strength test? Yeah, they'd totally spin it like that. No wonder she looked seconds from death. Thankfully, Hiro had an elixir on him. Smirnoff couldn't believe it when Hiro said he'd used an elixir on some beast kin no one even knew about, then asked how he got his hands on something that rare, only to find out it was a gift from his grandfather. Turns out he's the Rothwell family's eldest son, part of one of the country's most powerful noble houses, and Smirnov instantly clocked it. There had to be a bigger story behind it. That's right, Hiro never got the divine revelation, so his younger brother takes the house, and then Hiro gets adopted and crowned the lord of the great forest. They tossed him out, simple as that. Smirnoff's heard this kind of noble cruelty 1,000 times, but Hiro hit the jackpot. With his own head on his shoulders, he'd rack up enough merit to grab that house back. Hiro had zero intention of heading back to his family, and he'd rather fight his way out than lose his head. Smirnov blurted out that he didn't even know what he was saying, because he was broke and would never make it out here. Yet the hero would rather stay penniless than betray the one who saved his life. Seriously, he's way too kind for his own good. He's getting nothing out of this, and honestly, that's exactly the kind of hero energy that scares me. Because he's chasing one thing, becoming the kind of person who reaches out to people in trouble and lights up their world with real happiness. Even more than he cared about himself. He's the sweetest guy Smirnoff has ever laid eyes on. Then he asked Amelia if he was staying with the hero, and she shot back, yes. She said she wanted to repay him for the elixir bit by bit, so Smirnoff all. So he threw in with his ranks because with him and his crew, they can crank out twice the grunt work, and if it comes to a brawl, they can throw hands too. Sure, they're bandits right now, but they still had principles once, and he's convinced they can do real good the moment Hiro takes command. Before Hiro would even take them, he forced Smirnoff to swear no violence, no stealing, and Smirnoff nodded along without the slightest trouble. They stood there, both hands locked, shaking hard like it was a deal sealed with fate. Right when the ancient dragons suddenly swooped in, they started grumbling like, "How dare you leave us out?" That ancient dragon was so moved by the hero's cooking that it started believing it could trust the divine dragon duke's egg to them. From here on out, they're sworn comrades, so long as he keeps cooking up those mouth-watering meals. The hero snatched the ancient dragon's claw and vowed, "Next time I'll cook something healthy." Little did he realize his blessing slipped into motion on its own. supercharging his vitality without him even noticing. That hit the ancient dragon so hard his body suddenly felt weightless, no more dizziness, no more joint pain, just sharp, razor-bright senses and the wild feeling that he'd been reborn 1,000 years younger. He could probably demolish 1,000 servings of ginger pork, so he didn't waste a second. He bolted off to hunt the demon boar right away. An ancient dragon blasted into the sky above him, and panic slammed the hero like a wave. This was seriously bad. There's no way they've got seasoning for 1,000 servings. Smirnov can't wrap his head around it, and that's what's really haunting him. He's got way more hidden depth than you'd think, and the way he treats people is pure, bottomless kindness. From now on, life's gonna be pure fun. Smirnov can't wait to team up with Hero, the new boss. The hero just couldn't wrap his head around that nickname. He's a lord, not some bandit boss. But before he could even finish his complaint, the bandits swarmed in from every side and hurled him upward, sending him flying as the crowd roared in celebration. Right then, two strangers closed in on them, a black-haired man and a short-haired woman. The man gave Smirnov a sharp greeting, then slammed the truth down. He'd come to take his life. "I'm Richard," he said, bounty hunter for the Underworld Guild. Hero has heard about the Underworld Guild from his father, Oliver, and it's haunted him ever since. They're a shadow crew that snatches up the filth the public will never touch: assassinations, robberies, kidnappings, even torture, and Oliver swears they don't just strike in the dark. They meddle in politics behind the scenes too. Smirnov sneered at Richard for how far he'd fallen, once the bright rising star of the Holy City Knights. Now he was clawing together pocket change by hunting bandits. Richard shot him a furious glare. What nerve, mouthing off like that, especially when he was born into wealth as a noble and somehow still ended up as a bandit. Hero was totally thrown off when he realized Smirnov wasn't just some random, he was actually a noble, and Smirnov smirked like he knew it. When you looked at him, didn't he scream, "Born to the bloodline"? Nope, he screams bandit from head to toe, no matter how you try to spin it, and even Amelia swore he looked like some untamed human wildling. Smirnov's jaw dropped. Weren't they supposed to be on his side? Because those two better watch their backs later. He ran into Richard again, and no, he didn't fall from grace, he snapped. Those noble bastards were stuffing their pockets with heavy taxes, so he severed every tie to his family and walked out for good. Richard didn't care what his reasons were, he was dying anyway, because Smirnov just brought a cat-eared warrior into the fight, and it's not gonna be that easy. The woman beside Richard pulled her hood down, and out popped two cat-like ears, just like Amelia's. And when she heard that voice, she snapped into recognition and greeted her right away. She never thought she'd end up here, and she shot a worried look around, then asked, "What's going on? Is something happening?" Creeping into the forest ruins, they hunted the clan's lost treasure, the bow of Artemis, ready to steal it. But there's no way she'd ever get her hands on it, because in that village, the weakest, most useless disgrace never pulls anything off, not even close. Guess there's nothing she can do. It all comes down to one thing: her blinding case of nearsightedness. Back then, everyone doted on her like she was an archery prodigy, and they strutted around like kings, teaching her how to shoot. But who ever expected her vision to suddenly turn on her? Watching her whole life crash and spiral downward after that felt like a cruel joke. And do you remember that time she gave her combat training? She couldn't even land a hit, just stood there furious like her whole world was slipping away. It hits her so hard just thinking about that look on her face. Chills crawl up her spine, and Hero's about to blurt something out. But Smirnov slammed the brakes, warning that he might come back with more than just scratches on his skin. The Underworld Guild isn't some joke crew. Each member is a top-tier fighter who'd look like a hero to the public, and only warriors strong enough to carve through an army alone earn a spot. When he duked it out with Richard at the Holy City Sword Tournament, he could barely land a single hit. And that bastard's even deadlier now than he was back then. Then, just like you'd expect from a sword saint, that was pure genius, because if he'd rushed in back then, Hero would have been the first one to get wiped out. But because they're all so damn caring toward their comrades, she figured she'd give them one shot. One day she marched up to Amelia and dared her to strike, just once. If she gets lucky and connects with that hit, she could take her down right then and there. Smirnov ruffled Amelia's hair and swore everything would be fine, because the war god is right there backing them up. If she's the one striking, she'll end it with a single crushing blow. Amelia still hesitated, and it was all because of her eyes. So come on, girl, you've just got to trust yourself and get those prescription glasses. Hiro yelled to Amelia, urging her to take a chance and go for it. If it fails, they'll bolt for the exit and go all in, no holding back. She finally flashed a smile at their encouragement, thanked them, and locked in, ready to give it everything. Then she marched straight toward the woman from her tribe, closing the distance fast, and she lifted her fist and drove it forward like she was drawing a bow, because what she had to do hadn't changed one bit. She'll lock in her vision, steady her mind, hush her heart, and go all in with every single ounce of strength. She'll slam straight for the center. Amelia shot daggers at the woman's smug smirk, and he went totally clueless when the woman leaned on him. Before she slammed face first into the ground. No way she actually got hit, guess she's a beast after all. Richard snapped at them, telling them not to get cocky just because they caught a lucky break in some little game, because the power gap between them is massive, and from here on out it turns into a brutal one-sided slaughter. Smirnoff nodded along. Yeah, it really does feel that way, and wow, it looks like there's a massive gap in strength. Richard yanked the sword's hilt in his grip and told Smirnoff he'd still give him the dignity of dying as a swordsman, right as his boasting was cut off. Smirnov burst into view and slammed a punch straight into his stomach. Smirnov admitted there's a strength gap and then made it crystal clear he's the stronger one. Richard coughed, doubled over, clutched his stomach, and spat. You call that fighting, coward? Are these bandits really fighting like this? So yeah, Smirnov's done with being a bandit now because he finally found a lord who was worthy of trusting his sword. Richard figured only a god-tier fool would invite trouble like Smirnov's sword, so he snapped, "Who's the idiot?" And then there he was, standing right there. There, meet the new lord of the Vile Wood, Hiro Rothwell. Richard shook the woman awake and told her their plans had flipped. Now they're going after Hiro. And the moment she heard them, Smirnov bellowed at the top of his lungs that he'd never get to eat ginger pork again. Then the sky suddenly sparkled with something. And in the blink of an eye, the ancient dragon was already back. They'd be left staring, wondering why a legendary class monster would show up in a place like this. The ancient dragon snapped its head towards Smirnov and demanded who the hell those two were, and Smirnov shot back that they were out to kill Hiro. Rage flared in the ancient dragon as they dared to snatch his dinner. How could they even touch his comrade? So what? One snapped. I should make them my dinner. And the two screamed, shaking in terror. He's shaking even before he hits the ground. Wait, is it already over? Man, that's pathetic. Hiro felt Smirnov went too far, but if he didn't push it this hard, they'd come hunting them all over again. That left Amelia totally reeling. She had no idea her own attack could hit that hard. Smirnov told you, didn't he? They've got the war god backing them up. That twist lit a spark of curiosity in him, and he blurted out, what kind of war god is this, exactly? Smirnov leaned in and said, it's you, Hiro, no doubt about it. You've got that divine gift for leading troops, don't you? Hiro snapped the book open. Yep, turns out there are a few different kinds. That's the war god's real identity. When the effects stack, they turn him ridiculously strong, and Hiro, just wishing he had that kind of power on his own, but since Hiro's the Lord, strength means something totally different for him than it does for everyone else. He had myth-class swordsmanship, the one-man army sword Saint Smirnov, and Amelia, the bow princess who never misses a beat and could skewer even heroes. Plus, he carried the divine dragon's egg and stood as a sworn ally to an ancient dragon. That's the kind of power a lord has when he's always putting everyone else ahead of himself. Hiro's comrades, he stood among you with a gentle heart, and he's gathered together ready to shine. Can those kids really be strong enough to take on an entire nation's military? Inside the Rothwell estate's office, a woman stood right before Oliver, and the words she dropped hit like thunder. Everything's been unsettled since the ceremony, so the Merchant Guild sent her to investigate, but she never imagined Oliver would disinherit his own firstborn. Oliver didn't care if she was some legendary sage. She had no right poking into their family business, and if she'd even try to stick around, she'd better get out. Great Sage Lillian waved a document and snapped that nobody was panicking about it, right now, while Oliver scowled and barked at her to go tell those fools that they'll rake in even more profit now that the incompetent are gone, so he can finally cough up every debt on demand. Lillian scoffed, then strode straight for the door. Because this might be her final stop, she's going to blurt out the truth to him, right where he's standing at this very moment. Now the door's wide open, and ruin is about to charge right in. Back at the forest, Amelia shouted at Hiro to drop low and smash the wool with his kicks. A wolf lunged at him, coming in to strike the moment it hit. She faced Hiro and the Dragon Lord's egg, then snapped her gaze back to him and demanded to know, "Are you okay?" The dire wolves are hunting the Dragon Lord's egg, so they've got to skid out before the entire pack swarms in. Right then, Hiro spots one wolf coming straight for them. They lunged in and snatched Amelia up just as they smashed her with a branch. The wolf got shoved back hard, then backed away inch by inch, losing ground fast. The hero spun toward Amelia and asked if she was alright, and she nodded back, "Yeah, I'm fine." She blurted out an apology for missing it too late, then said they should have gone straight to Smirnoff for an escort, even if it meant forcing the issue, because at that point there was nothing else they could do. Smirnoff's whole crew is wrecked with a hangover, and he's the only one sober enough to deal with the underground guild mess, while the ancient dragon storms out to hunt a demon boar for dinner. But after this point, the monsters only get worse. Seriously, dragging on with just the two of them feels way too dangerous. The hero unfurled the map, and based on it, the Lord's estate had to be right around here, which meant they should have spotted the village by now. Amelia's eyes snapped up to a roof, and she jabbed her finger at it, right there. Yes, they finally earned a real break. No more pushing, they can rest properly now. Until they realized the truth. The mansion that welcomed them looked wrecked and broken, like it had a haunting of its own. They'd heard this place was brutal, but how could there be no villagers at all? Especially when the mansion itself lay in ruins. Amelia refused to believe the hero could possibly be handed a ruined territory as lord, and the second she said it, her nerves begged for one thing: please, let him not get the job. Good news, they found the right spot. For now, the crew sprints inside and shuts the door behind them. It was a total wreck. Vines crawled up the staircase, and the windows looked like they'd been left to rot for years. Everything's smashed to pieces, and they're just praying there's got to be at least one room they can still salvage. They trekked through the mansion rooms, hunted down a decent place to sleep, then realized the giant tree outside had swallowed the back area and grown right into it. But somehow this room's still spotless. Like the trees stood guard, blocking the wind and rain. Maybe that's why it's holding up way better than the rest. They can tuck the eggs safely by the tree's roots too, but should this be their base? Right then, Hiro spotted a sudden twinkle glowing from beneath the roots. It's magic, or at least something that could be burned for fuel, and that's what makes Amelia stare at it in shock, wondering why something like that asterisk would be sitting here. The hero strode up to the fireplace, and honestly, who camps in a place like this? It felt like someone crashed here overnight, then vanished, so yeah, it was basically begging him to use it and be grateful. It's been ages, so yeah, he's a little shaky with nerves, but he could finally channel his magic, and even spark the fireplace to life with fire magic. Amelia nearly dropped her tea when she found out the hero can sling fire magic too. He picked it up through his noble schooling, yet all he can do with his real lifestyle magic is the basics. And she knew just how rude it would be to say that out loud. But nobles really can go that far, sacrificing even their own children. Hiro's father must have seen how wrecked this land was, and still he crowned him as its lord. It was like she'd hidden a death sentence inside a neat little lie, until Hiro cut her off before she could finish, telling her she must never, ever say something like that again. People swear kindness always finds its way back, and the same old rule hits hard for resentment and lies. They don't just vanish. Ever since she lied and said her situation was just a test of skill, guilt has gnawed at her every time she talks. So he leaned in and demanded the truth, why she was getting chased by that minotaur in the first place. Amelia's dead set on stealing the divine artifact, the bow of Artemis, because it holds the revelation of clairvoyance, and she'll use it to save her sister. With divine insight, she can pinpoint her target no matter how far away, so even with failing eyesight she can still draw the bow and strike. But when she says she'll save her sister, Amelia finally spills the truth. Their parents died young from illness, and it's just her and her sister left in the world. Just the other day, the village's top elite sent them a proper formal request, and inside it said that so they could be treated like toys for their son, and kept with him forever. The hero's eyes widened. She thought, that's insane. And she knew she had to slam the brakes and refuse if she only could. Perfect. Inside the Workadir tribe, they hold a brutal martial arts tournament every year, and each family sends its best fighter to clash, because whoever wins decides their family's rank. So, ever since she took over as the family head, they've been stuck at the very bottom. In their clan, the weak are expected to kneel to the strong, no exceptions. And now, to save her sister, she has to prove she's the strongest in the tournament coming up in just 1 month. That's why she's chasing the bow of Artemis, because without it she can't see the future, not even a little. When archery is on the table, she's so sure of herself that nobody can touch her, until her eyesight starts to slip. She tried to stand up to the Minotaur in that temple and got absolutely crushed, failing the whole thing, and honestly, at this rate, she's done. That smile and the future her sister deserves is about to get ripped away. Since she's her sister and the head of their family, she has to protect her no matter what hits them. Hiro hears that grit and asks right away if she wants to try something. It might not be a divine message from some sacred artifact, but his magic still has the power to help. But he can't promise victory, and he can't even tell her what he's about to do. Emilia told him everything was fine and to just go for it. Then she shut her eyes the moment Hiro ordered, and he lifted his hands to cradle her face. Hold up, this is straight out of those fairy tales where a prince's kiss snaps the curse and everything turns magic. Is magic really like that? Because she's nowhere near ready for what's coming. The hero demanded she open her eyes, and the moment she put them on, she revealed these brand new glasses she'd never worn before. Hiro broke it down. Those weren't just random things, they're called glasses, a handy tool that helps you see better. Emilia leaned in and demanded to know how he managed to haul those fragile slivers of glass around. Yeah, turns out they're made from magically crafted ice, so he grabbed the metal frame they found and filled it with ice instead of glass. He built the whole design from his past life memories. Wait, so we're doing this like it's nothing? Still, he admitted it might not be flawless at first, but if they tweak it to match her eyesight, she'll finally be able to see clearly. Raindrops started to fall and Hiro snapped an apology, thinking the ice was finally melting. Then he realized they weren't water at all, they were Emilia's tears. His magic was unreal. Things that used to blur in the distance were finally clear, and she could even see her own hands across the whole room now. She lunged into a hug, gripped Hiro tight, and thanked him over and over. And one more thing, she's finally spotted something else. It's that stunning, handsome face of his, straight up lights out gorgeous. The hero's cheeks flared red as she blurted her words and instantly froze, wondering why she'd said them at all. Emilia cut him off mid-sentence and demanded he call her by her name. No titles, no formalities, just her name. Qualities, huh? Then she leaned in close and whispered right into his space. Their lips kept closing in, closer, closer. Girl, I swear, I thought you weren't ready for this. Right when everything seemed to settle, a sudden sound cut through the air and snapped them out of it. A sickening asterisk crack ripped through the room, like something finally gave way. Then he snaps his attention toward the egg. The cloth snapped apart the moment it wrapped around it. And then it lit up, glowing bright as the light surged like that. It's a revelation, like a book that flips everything upside down. The book's unveiled wild truths about dragons, and he froze in shock as the pages started melting together into a whole new revelation. The divine blessing is known as *** divine dragon master ***. It helps you crush the dragonkin and supercharges your allies' vitality to triple their strength. Cracks spidered across the egg, and it's only a matter of time before it breaks. This Lord Divine Dragon is so terrifyingly powerful that even the ancient dragon bows in respect. Then crack, a little kid tumbled out of the egg and Hiro dashed to the back of the mansion to wash their clothes. He let out a heavy sigh, jerked himself upright, cracked his back and stared at the mess like, how did we even get here? Meanwhile, the dragon kid's laughter rang through the bathroom like a wild echo that wouldn't quit. Room spun around as Emilia fought to stay still, gripping the moment. Then she snapped, if those bubbles hit your eyes, it'll hurt like crazy. The dragon kid giggled and said the bubbles tickled, so Emilia told her to just endure it for now. Then the kid turned and demanded, where's my papa, the hero? Emilia sighed and explained, he's super busy sewing clothes and doing the laundry. Right on cue, the heroes blurted from the hallway that her fresh clothes were ready, and the moment she heard his voice, the kid sprinted straight for the door. Emilia sprinted after her to stop her, but she burst through the door first, demanding Hiro, asking if he wasn't coming to join them in the bath. Hiro nearly choked on his own saliva, staring at Emilia's bare body with his face burning red. Emilia, panicking, lashed out and punched his chin, then begged him to wipe this whole mess from his memory. Once Emilia finally clocked what she'd just unleashed, she shot out an apology on the spot. Hiro never saw this coming, because everything was fine right up until the egg of the divine dragon lord cracked and hatched. Right away, the two were completely baffled when they laid eyes on the kid. Wait, wasn't the divine dragon lord meant to be part of the dragon race like those legendary ancient dragons? People say the divine dragon lord doesn't come from dragons at all, but from the dragonoid race. So they figured, let's ask the kid herself. Even though they couldn't shake the fear, could she even talk right after being born? The kids locked onto them the moment the first words hit the air. The moment she spoke, all that spilled out were the words mama and papa. She hauled Amelia into a tight hug and called her mama like it was the only word that mattered. Amelia stared at the mess and couldn't believe it. Someone told her the dragon race imprints, so when that dragon was born, it locked onto the very first ones it ever saw. The dragon kid snapped his head toward him and shouted Papa, then wheeled around again to Amelia, yelling Mama. So what happens next, for now? The hero told them to take a bath, and that one suggestion snowballed into the mess they're in right now. The hero flipped through the manual again and the warning finally clicked. Slow to mature meant the environment he'd been given had to grow with her, and he never once expected that she would end up being his daughter. Even if he wanted to bring her here, they had nothing. No real place to live, no supplies, and no way to get any. They're piling up and he can't take it anymore. He just wants to bolt because deep down he's terrified and way too weak to fight back. Right then the dragon kid charged up to him and asked, "Does your tummy hurt?" And if he wanted her to kiss the pain away, Hiro leaned in and promised her it was fine. He was just lost in thought. On that note, he couldn't believe Amelia whipped up such adorable clothes for the dragon kid in that tiny window of time. Yep, she lit up because it finally clicked for her, and it was absolutely worth tearing into the sheets in her canopy. She couldn't shake the worry. She'd never dressed anyone before, so what if she messed it all up? The hero flashed her a thumbs up and promised, with total confidence, that everything was perfect. That tied-up hair is seriously adorable. The dragon kid jumped into the convo, and Amelia busted out laughing, calling her absolutely adorable. They asked Amelia if she really was the divine dragon lord, and she answered without hesitation. Yep, she's the real deal, the one who rules and leads the entire dragon race. The kid pushed the words out of his mouth, and he couldn't get past it. And Hiro just found her, way cuter than before. Amelia pitched the idea of a nickname, because Divine Dragon Lord is the title every dragon leader wears. And the dragon kid keeps grumbling that it's way too hard to say either one, and the hero pauses, studies her, and really takes it in. Later on, her eyes turned blood red, those adorable little horns stuck out, and she ruled as the fearless leader of the entire dragon race. A golden blazing divine dragon that. So what do you all say, how about it? Golden from gold, that's what it means. He leaned in and asked what GOL thought about her brand new nickname. She said name and her face lit up. She smiled like she was loving every second of it. Joel marched up to Amelia and dropped the news about her new nickname Mama and Papa. And when she heard it, a shy smile spread across her face, even as her cheeks burned because being called that made her feel weirdly exposed. The hero nodded in agreement, and it seriously feels like he just found a whole new family. As a kid, he was groomed to grow into a legendary lord, ready to represent his country, soaking up knowledge from the great sage at every turn. Oliver couldn't stop talking about money, investments, finance, the whole game, and he swore those chats were fun because they were happening with him. But he was the only one who felt that way, and even his twin brother couldn't stand it. Before he was even born, there was never anyone there for him. No family, no warmth, nothing. Hiro nearly choked when GOL pushed for it instead, grinning that she loved doing it with them because it was fun. Then she urged them to say, "I love you," and pulled them into a tight hug. He shot her a heartfelt thank you for teaching him, and Amelia instantly praised her for being so sharp. Then Hiro decided to hand GOL a reward. He stared at the soap bubbles rising from his laundry, and Joel snapped, furious, because he knew she didn't want to do the laundry anyway. But the hero leaned in and told her, "Watch me closely." Then he blew a stream of air over the soap. Bursting bubbles shot through the air like tiny fireworks. Joel's eyes lit up. He lunged his hands toward the bubbles and blurted, "Is that Hiro's magic?" Hiro broke down why they were called soap bubbles, and Joel burst into laughter. Then he nudged Amelia, begging her to look at the gorgeous bubbles while Hiro's cheeks flushed a little. He got rocked with a lash the moment he looked at Amelia. She looked worried and fired back, "What's wrong?" Hiro rubbed the back of his head and blurted that Amelia was beautiful, and her cheeks instantly erupted into a deep, blinding blush. It's only because her hair and outfit look totally different today. Amelia caught Joel staring and snapped, "What's wrong?" Joel leaned in and suggested they kiss me, making the tube redden even more. Turns out Gol clocked from the egg that they're going to kiss the moment they look like that. Hiro demanded Amelia's help and told her straight up that what went down back then was just a failed attempt. Then he jerked back in shock as Amelia turned and marched off to cook. Joe burst out laughing at Hiro's rejection, then immediately stepped in to hype him back up. The hero reached out and ruffled her hair with a quick, gentle pat. He'll do whatever it takes for her too. Everything's been turned upside down, but he's going to carve out a safe, happy home where people can finally live in peace. Gol beamed like crazy. She couldn't wait to laugh her head off because hanging with him was pure fun. Same story as in the hero's past life. He had a little sister, so he endured it all. And when there's something to protect, you don't just survive, you level up and somehow you find a reason to keep living. He used to believe he was weaker than everyone else. Then Gol came along and suddenly he started getting stronger for real. Suddenly, a blood-chilling scream erupted from inside the mansion. Amelia's in real danger. They stormed in and there was Amelia, collapsed on the floor. No way, how in the world did this happen? The very next day, the three of them sprawled on the grass outside while Gol perched on Amelia's lap. Then she lifted her hand. So she's basically asking, is it a problem that Amelia can't play with Hiro when you're playing with him? Yeah, that sounds like a real problem. But that's not what the hero meant. He demanded she look inside the suitcase he just opened. Their food stores are almost completely wiped out. Amelia threw out an apology, swearing it was all her fault, and Joel looked up at her, then demanded, "Did you really eat everything?" That wasn't the issue. She tossed the leftover slime into the rest of the food supplies, only for it to still be alive. And then it devoured every single thing inside before anyone could stop it. Yesterday, Amelia screamed and passed out because the giant slime she unleashed from a bag she opened had already crawled inside. The lid finally popped open and just like that, the pork that came with it was gone for good. All he had left was a pot of slime, a little seasoning, and the dried meat hero was still clutching, when suddenly a voice cut in, challenging every word he said. A horned man with one side of his hair braided came running the moment he heard the divine dragon lord had finally hatched. He wanted to bow, show respect, and snag a feast, but ever since that last banquet, he's been starving on purpose. And that's how he throws the hammer on him. The hero's mind reeled with confusion, and he demanded to know who he really was. The man glared hard like, "Did you really forget the face of your sworn ally already?" The moment he heard that only one person showed up for him, it lit up his thoughts. It's the ancient dragon, seriously, who else would it be? With Neurosight cracking the clues, it's honestly a miracle they nailed it from just that. Just as they were finally getting into it, Joel's stomach growled loud and she snapped, "Is breakfast ready yet?" But all they had was dried meat, and the ancient dragon couldn't even process what it was hearing. Even hauling kids along, they still end up eating more than a grown human, so a little dried meat barely even makes a dent. That's exactly why they had to move now. If the ancient dragon felt like it, it could go tear into a giant demon boar on its own. But there was this huge favor he couldn't shake off. He needed to ask it. He leaned in and asked if Hiro would let him become the Gol's mentor. Because every race has its own rules, only that kind can truly pass them down, and he was sure there were a million things they simply couldn't teach anyone else. The hero dropped into a crouch at Gol's level and urged her to make her own choice, to grab the path that feels right in her heart. He's convinced the ancient dragon is right. Learning from another dragon can level up GL, and he pushes, asking what she actually wanted to do. Joel snapped his head toward the ancient dragon. He agreed to play along with him. The ancient dragon dropped to one knee and showed her nothing but pure respect. Joel couldn't stand the stiff formalities, so he demanded one thing: treat him like he was just Gol. That's her rule. Then she climbed onto his back and roared, "Let's go!" And the ancient dragon stalled for a beat before giving in. But eventually he gave in and followed her orders, while Amelia kept snapping, "Don't you dare do anything dangerous." Now they've got to scramble and find a way to beat this brutal food shortage. When Amelia pitched the idea of hunting an ancient dragon, they made her a mentor, and she figured maybe this is finally her chance to prove she's useful too. Those cat-ear tribes hunt every day, chomp down what they catch, and save every leftover by packing it away as stockpiled food, so even when winter hits, they never go hungry. And they can swap horns and pelts for rich seasonings and spices, or break them down and craft clothes and tools. Hiro's heart sank. Without hunting tools, they had nothing to fight back with. So Amelia told him to use traps. They're running out of time, so instead of talking it out, she should just show him and get it done. First, she'll start with the easiest kind of trap, just vines and sticks, and that's the basic hunting lesson kids learn. Because animals could sniff out the trap, they only grab what they need right where they are. They twist living vines into a rope, prop it up with sturdy tree branches, and build the trap right there, no extra steps needed. A game trail sits nearby, so that's where they'll set it. The hero couldn't shake the fear that the game trail snaking out of that vile wood was hiding monsters just waiting to jump out. But Amelia shot him a confident look. She'd scouted the area before they even gathered, and she hadn't felt a single hint of danger. Thank goodness, if it's a forest nearby, they might even score wild vegetables to forage and survive. But they can't drop their guard for even a second, got it? Because a giant slime can swallow a grown adult whole, just imagine that. Straight up traumatic. They pushed deeper down the trail, spotted the perfect place, and immediately started setting everything up. After Amelia laid the trap, she didn't stop there. She planted the exact same trap again in about 3 more spots along the animal trails. Cairo watched her with that bright smile, like he could feel the fun in the air. She looked genuinely happy, and he could almost sense that maybe, just maybe, she'd finally become the help he needed. Right out of nowhere, Amelia's ear twitched like she caught a signal, and she snapped at Hiro to get the glasses ready. She slipped on the glasses he handed her, then leaned in and told him straight up that she was aiming. He aimed right at the bird perched on that tree branch, just waiting to get hit. Amelia looked around and wished a bow was in her hands right this second. But today, she's stepping into action with a sling from the cat ear tribe, one of their signature weapons built to crush big game. For a bird, even a tiny pebble can do the job, so she'll play it safe with a gentle toss. He lunged through the stones to reach the bird. Then one word hit the air, boom. A massive explosion tore everything apart. Amelia clung to Hiro as they both shook uncontrollably. Just a tiny stone had this much power in it. Thank every star she didn't hurl it with full strength. She has to train hard until her strength finally obeys her, because that divine revelation power-up, turns out it doesn't always feel like a blessing. Luckily, their praise just knocked her out, not dead. Right then, Jules' voice boomed from the mansion's roof, calling out to them. She couldn't hold it in. She told them she just learned something awesome, then shoved it in front of them like, "Look at this," and took a sharp breath. Before he blasted a beam of light, triggering an explosion that tore the mountain clean apart. The ancient dragon bragged, claiming this power was earned through his ruthless training. True to her destiny as the next dragon tribe leader, she already unleashes the tribe's ultimate move, the annihilating roar. Jules sprinted straight into Hiro's arms, and he praised her while ruffling her hair with a proud pat on the head. That was wild. He could feel his entire territory slipping away like it was about to disappear for good. Hiro roared to the ancient dragon, but the dragon assumed he was about to drown it in praise. Hiro crossed his arms and declared, straight to the point, no dinner for him tonight. That ancient dragon just couldn't accept it. He grabbed Hiro's shoulders and demanded to know why it had to end this way after he handed over the dragon tribe's ultimate technique that can wipe out everything. Hiro shot back, "We've got food supply problems, remember, didn't he?" Then it hits him, one wild strike and days of food are gone. Even in his domain, wild vegetables are treated like gold, and as the ruler, he can't just let it slide. Looks like the ancient dragon will have to shoulder the blame as the official mentor. Still, the ancient dragon grumbled that this punishment was way too brutal and begged for his usual gentle side, because no matter what, wrong is wrong. If Hiro lets it slide, his whole domain will crumble into ruin. An ancient dragon cornered Joel and demanded he deliver a message for him. But she swore she'd finish every last bite of his food, and over on the edge of the scene, a monocled man watched them like he was plotting something. Believing that a lord taking charge in a remote backwater like this could explode into a goldmine of profit. And Amelia had been training her archery nonstop, hour after hour, like she was determined to master every shot. With those glasses the hero crafted for her, everything finally clicked into place. She can see farther than ever now, so next week's martial arts tournament should go off without a hitch. After all that non-stop archery practice and the supplies they packed in bulk, it finally clicks into place. Now all that's left is for the ancient dragon to deliver the staple food they asked for, and they're good to go. The moment Hiro hears Joe shouting, he whips his head back. And the moment he showed up, Joel pounced on him, hugging him so tight it felt like a tackle. Amelia shot him a worried look and asked if he was okay, and Hiro replied that he was barely holding himself up, saved only by divine intervention, before he turned his gaze to Joel and demanded to know how her hunting went. Joel's eyes lit up when she told him they'd scored a mountain of food, and that she'd hooked something incredible too. They couldn't stop wondering what that incredible thing was. So Joel fired them up to follow her and they went, no questions asked. When they finally arrived, they stared in shock at a mountain of monsters, and right there, standing above the chaos, was the ancient dragon. There's a demon boar, a sea serpent, a minotaur, and even a medusa. So the heroes convinced he begged the ancient dragon to stock up on staple foods. So tell me, why do monsters like minotaurs and medusas exist if you can't even eat them? Doesn't that scream something? That ancient dragon just couldn't help showing off. Medusas were disaster-class monsters, and what better way to prove his strength than with something that terrifying? Sure, they see he's strong, but Hiro's pushing for staple food for a reason. Here, the only way to keep food from spoiling is to smoke the meat, because with what they've got, there's no way they can finish it in time. And that's when the ancient dragon snapped, staring at the rotting like, what's the big problem? It crumbles, decays, and feeds the soil. Then fresh plants rise, animals chow down, and life keeps roaring on, just the world's iron law. Just as he wasn't wrong, Gol burst in and told Hiro, you can chomp on a ton of it right now, even if you're tiny. And their whole conversation got smashed mid-sentence. A person is kneeling right beside her, hands trembling as he begs for his life. Amelia demanded the man's name, and Joel confessed he'd been caught in a pitfall trap. So Amelia lunged in and grabbed him before he could drop out of reach. He smells that good, so yeah, he's gonna taste even better. Right then, the man stepped up and introduced himself, Jack. He runs business here in the Rothwell territory, rolling in as a traveling merchant for the Ardmic Trading Company. The hero couldn't believe it. This far out, a traveling merchant was practically unheard of. But unheard of didn't mean lucky, it screamed suspicious. What kind of trader rolls in without a wagon, without packs, like they're hiding something? Jack grinned and told him, don't worry, everything I've got is right here in my bag. It's a magical artifact his father left him as a keepsake, and it can stash enough to fill an entire warehouse without breaking a sweat. But there's a brutal catch. By inheriting everything, he also got stuck with every debt his father racked up too, which is exactly why he's hauled himself all the way out here. Ever since they picked the next Rothwell territory successor, prices have been going through the roof, so bad that shelves are almost empty. And when they finally do manage to stock up, nobody can afford to buy at those prices. At this rate, he can't even scrape together a living, so he's pushing into other territories to hunt for goods, and every time he's on the move, this mansion becomes his quick stopover. He spotted them here last week when he swung by, so today he came back to properly introduce himself. And right as he did, Hiro clenched his fist because he knew this was bad. The crushing taxes are hitting Jack way sooner than he ever expected, and sure, he's got that magical artifact, so he should outtrade most merchants. But even with that, his business still can't keep its head above water. If this keeps going, the Rothwell territory is going to get wrecked by those two, and Jack knows he has to act now before it's too late. Jo questioned what went wrong, wondering if her catch really failed. Because in the end, it wasn't a disaster, just a painfully disappointing moment. Jack runs a shop stuffed with everything under the sun, so if they eat him, their tasty supply is gone for good. Joel panicked, blurting out, what do we do? While she practically begged to dive into tasty food, so the only move left was for her to apologize to Jack. Jo dropped into a bow and apologized to Jack, but she couldn't stop staring, drool and all. Hiro ruffled her hair and cheered her on, and when the misunderstanding finally died down, Jack felt a huge weight lift off his chest. Hiro then held out his hand to Jack. He blurted out an apology for the trouble and introduced himself, Hiro Rothwell, an adopted Rothwell, and said he'd been sent here on the Lord of the Territory's orders. And yeah, he can keep using the mansion just like before. Jack rubbed the back of his head, staring like, you're sure? Because that kind of help would be a huge lifesaver. Amelia shot back in protest, insisting Jack might be lying. She snapped at Hiro for being way too kind, letting that guy use the mansion for free. And then she hit him with the real question: is he seriously just going to roll over and accept everyone? If he keeps living like this, he's gonna end up seriously hurt one day, and when it happens, he'll probably grin and say he's glad it was him, but she can't bear the thought of that. Hiro swallowed his pride and apologized to Emilia, because as the Lord, he simply couldn't back down on this. If he walks away from people who need him just to save himself, he'll never be able to help anyone who comes to him, and she's warning him that some folks would try to trick him or use him. Even so, if someone cries out for help, he snaps into action and thrusts his hand forward to pull them back from the brink. Emilia stomped her feet and pouted because when he said it that plainly she couldn't even find a comeback. Just then, Hiro smirked, chuckled, and apologized for freaking her out. Now Jack finally gets why Hiro had dragons and why a Workadir tribe member was riding with him. Because for someone that young, his heart is ridiculously huge. The hero figured he was giving him way too much credit. Sure, he might have said something bold, but the truth is they're already slammed with their own mess right now. He's the Lord, but he's got no citizens, just a wrecked mansion, a territory crawling with uneaten meat, and monster corpses stacked everywhere, and that's only the beginning of their nightmare. Alright then, Jack's got a proposal ready for him. He wants to snatch this pile of monsters from him because his whole hustle is trading food. If it's demon boar meat, he can flip even this much with zero trouble. That'd be awesome, but what about the monsters that aren't meant to be eaten? That won't be a problem. Medusa's eye is top-shelf magic, and a minotaur's horns and hooves are prime gear-making materials, so he's got nothing to worry about. But the dragon fangs and scales, those are insanely rare, so he's tossing them straight onto the auction block. About ripping the beasts apart and dealing with the leftovers, he'll knock it off the final bill, so you've got nothing to stress over, but there's one catch. He's got absolutely no cash on hand right now. Emilia's frown hit the moment and Jack panicked. Wait, you've got it wrong. Insisting he wasn't trying to scam Hiro at all, he just didn't have the cash on hand to buy all that material up front. Yeah, secret side deals could pay more, but his mind was locked on something bigger, signing a real, formal contract instead. He yanked a scroll from his bag. This was the Ardmic Trading Company's territorial contract, a magical promissory note that lets the payment wait. He'll swing by every week to grab their order. Then he'll haul the goods and pay them the full total by the end of the very next month. To seal the deal, the company skims 5% from every sale, unless Jack steps in and pays that 5% himself. Still, Hiro bristled at it. He swore a contract had to be fair, because in any trade, the guy drowning in debt always gets squeezed harder. Still, just landing a trade route all the way out on this frontier already felt like a win for him. Jack bowed hard and apologized, basically begging for one shot to lock down the deal, then they rolled straight into the contract. The Ardmic Trading Company also shuffles money deals with noble families, so every contract has one rule. Either the wife steps in or the heir signs as the contractor. Hero side, most nobles burn through their money without thinking, and yeah, it's basically just a box-checking formality anyway. That's why Jack decided to have someone get his wife's info for the paperwork. If that's the deal, the hero steps in and tells Emilia, "Do it for me." Jack spotted the shock on her face and promised her it's only going to be ink on paper, so she had nothing to fear. Emilia's face flushed red. Sure, it was only written down, but once it was on that page, they were officially husband and wife. So the hero leaned in and asked her straight up, "Wait, you don't want to be the guarantor, right?" If it were some stranger she hated, she'd slam the door, easy, but this isn't about that at all. She just wanted him to put it down right, no shortcuts, even if it was only on paper. The hero dropped to his knees and begged her to be his wife. Emilia's cheeks burned as she looked away, ready to say yes. Then someone cut in out of nowhere. Is it too much to ask? She disgraced their family in the village, and now she's here to smear their name again. It's disgusting, someone from the proud Warcat Ear tribe, born of that bloodline, marrying an invader. A woman of the Workadir tribe, bow in hand, snapped at Emilia to march straight back to the village, or if she refused, her shame would cost her her life. Emilia couldn't stop wondering why Natasha, this mysterious woman, had come here in the first place. Natasha demanded she pick, come back to the village with her or meet death at her own hands right here. The hero asked Emilia, "Do you know me?" And she nodded, "Yeah. Then she admitted Natasha had taught her everything when she was just a kid. She's just a kid, but she's also one of the village's top reconnaissance specialists, and she's convinced Natasha was sent after her the moment she walked out. But Natasha shut it down. Her leaving wasn't the real fight at all. The real problem was brutal. Humans are here on this land. That hero was totally baffled. How could humans be the problem when the Rothwell family has owned this land for generations? Honestly, humans never even bothered to learn what really happened here. This land sits right beside the Warkadir tribe's village, and it used to be ground zero for human-led demi-human hunts. They marched in to scout after rumors said a lord would be stationed here, but she never guessed one of their own would be standing on the human side. Amelia insisted she'd done nothing wrong. She was teetering on death's edge after the battle, and Hiro burned his entire fortune just to keep her alive. He's nothing like the old humans. Natasha couldn't believe it. There was no way a human would hand a demi-human pricey medicine when history said they wouldn't even offer water to starving demi-humans. Jack blurted out that things aren't as cruel for humans anymore, begging them to sit down, sip tea, and actually talk. Natasha spotted him right away. He was that traveling merchant who'd come through the village before. Seriously, did he think she'd bite on some special tea sales pitch? Wolves closed in around her as she demanded to know who dosed Amelia's medicine, and vowed they'd let the magic wolves tear into that filthy slave trader for what he did. Hiro couldn't figure out why the magic wolves kept popping up nearby. Then it all clicked. They've got numbers and they're not messing around anymore. They're coming for the hunt and they mean to take them down. The ancient dragon leaned in and demanded to know what the hero should do next, because the moment he gives the order, that beast could turn them all to ash in the blink of an eye. Hiro wouldn't let that happen. If they push this any farther, Amelia's position is going to crumble. If they keep this up, they're going to get crushed, snap out of it and realize it. He can beg for mercy with all his heart. Yeah, no, that won't save him. They'll demand his life instead. If he dares Natasha to a duel, his power won't survive a single clash. Dragonheart's wisdom and experience won't help a bit here, right like Mari-san warned. He might genuinely end up dead right here. No, he can't quit. There's gotta be something out there waiting for him. A game-changing move that flipped the whole situation on its head. He doesn't know what's waiting for him, but he's going to take the plunge anyway, because these are the exact points Amelia laid out and he needs to follow them for her. Natasha spotted the Book of Revelation and immediately snapped her magic wolves into position for the coming attack. The hero snapped the divine revelation to life, the Sacred Scrolls lottery, where he. Then they handed him a special rank and the book Senna, the god of abundance. He snapped the book open with a sharp flick, and what he saw inside hit him like a ringing echo that just wouldn't stop. That move tripled how fast the crops grew on their own land. Tanuki beans and soybean fields exploded with harvest. So what kind of revelation is this supposed to be? No, wait, he'd already blown it the second he took that gamble. Tasha snapped, asking if this was just a desperate way to buy her forgiveness, because human pleas for mercy sounded weirder every day, and she had her bow up, ready to fire when death finally came. When Joel lunged in front of the hero, he warned her not to lay a hand on his mama and papa. Was mama really Amelia? And when Joel nodded yes, the truth hit hard. Natasha scowled through gritted teeth. She knew Amelia was getting crushed in the martial tournament, and she also knew the only way out was to seize the bow of Artemis. She slipped out of the village in silence, sure that was the reason, but somehow she ditched her sister just to run off and live among humans like it was a better choice. So tell me, what does she really need? Natasha's about to push her right to the truth. Natasha yanks her bow and Amelia screams for Hiro to dodge, but he can't. There's no dodging this blow. If he evades, Gol gets sacrificed, but if Amelia throws up her shield, the Warkadir tribe's pride stays standing, and if he grabs the arrow, then the mission is sealed. Natasha snapped her bowstring and loosed the arrow, and the hero shut his eyes tight. On top of that, he kept moving, then threw out an apology. Then his eyes burst open the moment he heard someone grumbling that the leader was the very first to quit. Smirnov caught the arrow with his bare hand, stopped it cold, then snapped it cleanly in two. Hiro treated his own life like it meant nothing. Then the thought hit, if he vanished right here, what would become of everyone else? Hiro couldn't stop staring, completely lost by what he just heard. But when he finally saw the crowd behind Smirnov, it hit him. These weren't soldiers at all, they were farmers and craftsmen, pulled here because Smirnov believed the hero could actually use them. Right after he left the rogue guild members in Rothwell's domain, they caught up with him. Because without the tax money, their farmland got seized, and now they had nowhere to go, and Hiro knew he couldn't carry their whole future with his power alone. Smirnov snapped at him not to get it twisted. These people weren't here to ask for help. They showed up because they were convinced they could be useful to him. A territory isn't something you claim, it's something you build with everyone who calls it home, and if he thinks he can shoulder it all by himself, he's in for a rude awakening. Hiro finally gets it. He's not missing the answers, he's missing the power and but the Lord's resolve was unshakable. He barked the order, end it with 0 casualties on both sides. He'll take the lead and they'll follow his orders to the letter. No questions, no slip-ups. On his signal, Smirnov will go after Natasha, Amelia and the ancient dragon will stand guard over the citizens, and Gol will stay buried in the shadows. With everyone finally ready, they locked eyes, nodded, and tore off into motion. The hero slammed his divine blessing into the air, and the beast roared back like it recognized him. His chances of pulling off a successful beast negotiation just skyrocketed. Then he barked an order, "Magic wolves, sit," and they obeyed instantly. They followed, shaking all over, while Natasha stared at them, utterly baffled. When she finally clocked Smirnov's rushing toward her, he didn't look like it at first. She figured he was some heavyweight type, but he's lightning fast, and somehow he manages to slash her bow down with a knife in the blink of an eye. Dodging the second strike is a fantasy. Then she'll snap for his neck using. With her dagger poised, she lunged for his heart, but before she could even move, Smirnov quickly pinned her down like it was nothing. She's just like Hiro, right? Tossing her life away so easily. Yeah, that's not gonna fly. Natasha's cheeks flared red when Smirnov asked if she understood, and then, like it was nothing, he called her a kitten. Before she could answer, it finally clicked, she understood. The hero beamed and thanked Smirnov, and when Smirnov spun back, he praised the hero right there too, making it clear they'd both done great. The hero stroked the magic wolf, and when it was totally fine, relief hit him hard. Then Smirnov leaned in and demanded, "So what was that just now?" It was one of the big revelations in the hero's arsenal, normally meant for beastmen, so he sharpened his voice, drove it like a command, and made it hit like an order. He didn't think it would work on dragons too, but somehow it did. Natasha lay pinned to the ground, finally crushed into silence. He grilled Amelia, demanding to know why she fought so hard for them, especially since she already knew the brutal history between humans and demi-humans. Even after Amelia got saved, she still felt that way at first, until Hiro stared her down and asked, "Is it wrong to save someone who's dying?" Then Natasha came in and taught her the rest. The Workadir tribe always pays back every debt they owe, because that's their tradition, no exceptions. Natasha grinned like she owned the night. Yeah, she was the shameless one. Then she wheeled on Hiro and demanded to know what he was planning to do with her. Turns out he had 0 plans for her, until he revealed one favor he wanted from her. To guide them straight to the Workadir tribe's village. Amelia's coming back for the martial tournament, so of course they're heading there too. Alright, time to introduce themselves the right way. Natasha led the heroes straight into the demon forest's darkest depths. After trekking for what felt like forever, he finally told them the village was right up ahead. That ancient dragon, Gol perched on his shoulders, grumbled that flying would have been way faster than trudging along like this. If it's only a village at that level, they could drop in from above and crush the whole thing while he's still riding on his back. The hero yanked his hood off and snapped that wasn't allowed. Absolutely not. They're about to welcome them as neighbors, but there's already a wall between the Workadir tribe and the humans, so nobody knows what tiny spark could ignite a full-blown war. If it happens, that ancient dragon gets barred from eating for the rest of its life. Talk about a brutal sentence. Doesn't it feel like it should hit harder than that? Smirnov cut into their talk, peppering Hiro with a "You sure this force is enough?" And yeah, he was right, because better safe than sorry. Natasha and Amelia's hatred for humans burns hotter than anything. It's pure, relentless hostility. So what, are the rest of the tribe just going to sit there? Shouldn't they've rallied everyone? It can't work like that though because every single person had their own job to handle. They're gone from the territory for around 14 days, so Hiro tells Jack to take over the materials and tools. The craftsmen are hammering away, building new houses and fixing the mansion, so they can't just abandon the territory while the farmers press on with planting. Yes, he orders them to sow blessed seed rice and soybeans from the revelation, and even the underlings pitch in, tearing down monsters and helping with whatever work needs doing. Yeah, they demanded a lot because they're not just messing around, they've got real work to do, repair their ties with the Warkadir tribe. That demon forest just isn't fertile enough to keep everyone fed, so they can't handle everything on their own, trade with the village, and suddenly both sides get what they need to live better. So he's chasing the martial arts tournament title, because when he wins, he'll finally become the link between the forest and the village. Amelia slipped out of the village by herself, so she's got no clue if they'll even let her join. She's confident the proper greeting won't be an issue, but in their eyes, it's not about to go smoothly. If they try to fight the hero's power, it's obvious what's coming next, because this clan worships strength above all, even if they know there's a line between real power and reckless courage. Smirnov shot Natasha a look, wondering if they even got it. Some of them were already itching to rush in and gamble their lives like she would. Natasha crossed her arms, then flat out told him, "Shut up." Amelia shot a glance over her shoulder and remembered the secret weapon Smirnov entrusted to them, ready to be used the moment things went bad. The hero prayed they could squash it peacefully, instead of turning it into a full-blown fight. They burst into the corridor that'll spit them straight out to the village entrance. It rose like a fortress carved straight from nature. Right then, a smug voice cut through the air, claiming it was built for those lowly folks below them. They're the kind of beings that don't get trampled on, because their sanctuary is untouchable. That woman, clearly their leader, shot a warning right at them. Take one step closer and you'll be dead. The hero shot an apology for the last-minute crash and then introduced himself like, "Hey, I'm me." He was praying they'd finally sit down and talk. The chief scowled at them, like there wasn't a single word he was willing to give. The hero closed the distance, and even though he knew they hated humans, he swallowed his nerves and begged them to hear him out. Smirnov suddenly shouted at Hiro to back off, because the Warkadir tribe's warning wasn't a bluff after all. At the chief's command, the tribe loosed their arrows and aimed straight for Hiro. But right when they lunged forward, Amelia slammed the brakes. She drew her own bow. Hiro had saved her life, so she wouldn't let a single soul hurt him, not even the chief. The chief snorted, asking if she could really hit from that far with her bad eyesight. Amelia didn't answer, she simply proved it with her bow. The chief froze in disbelief. There was no way that bow was the divine weapon their tribe had guarded and passed down for generations. Did she press them for answers about what they planned to do next after they coaxed Amelia? And then there's that ancient dragon side of the story. Did it really ask them to listen back then, or were they just too clueless to understand a single word? The chief fixed him with a brutal glare, then fired back immediately. And it sparked non-stop bickering between them, like they were duking it out in a full-on dissing battle. The hero stepped up, stood between the ancient dragon and its rage, and somehow brought both of them back from the brink. The chief shot a hand up, and the instant he took one step forward, a hailstorm of arrows came flying at them. Didn't she tell them, "Move forward and your lives are forfeit"? It's cool, sure, but against an ancient dragon like that, this doesn't even scratch the surface. An explosion ripped through the air. It hit the chief like a bolt. Did that kid just pull off magic? No, he barely fluttered one wing, just that, and the chief couldn't wrap her mind around what she was seeing. The ancient dragon snapped back into his true draconic shape, and Joel was still perched on his head. But dragonkind siding with humans, that twist was so shocking it felt impossible. Yeah, he warned her she'd regret this, right? Then the ancient dragon snapped its jaws open, ready to unleash an attack. How? Just as Hiro tried to move, he blasted a divine blessing and commanded the two dragons to sit down, before he could even act. The ancient dragon roared in outrage, demanding, "What am I supposed to do when you're the ones who hit us first?" First, the chief stared with wide, shocked eyes, because she couldn't stop wondering who Hiro really was, the same guy who'd wrestled a dragon down and somehow made it obey him. He wheeled around to the chief, dropped to his knees and faced him head-on. As the face of his domain, he bows and apologizes for his companion's rudeness, then begs her to forgive him for his own lack of manners. The chief stepped down fast, greeted the hero with a fierce smile, and introduced herself like she meant business. She's Emeralda, the Warkadir tribe's chief, and she straight up thanks him for holding back the terrifying power he's got. Because her people don't just follow strength, they honor it. And honestly, he's not quite like the other humans, she clocked that instantly, then she pressed him on why he'd come in the first place. It wasn't some huge deal first, he just wanted to greet them after he moved into the forest next door. Amelia told him they were entering a martial arts tournament, and he couldn't wait to see their skills up close. The tribe members burst into laughter, so he claims it's her prowess. But then he snaps, isn't she the dropout who ditched the village? Emeralda swallowed her pride and apologized for her tribe's actions because yeah, there was a reason behind it all and it still didn't feel right to keep talking like this standing here. So she invited them over to their mansion to hash out every last detail. They slipped into the corridor, trailing behind Emeralda as she fired off the legend. How a giant tree supposedly shelters a god, and how Artemis's bow is a divine weapon forged by the gods themselves. Their ancestors were chosen to guard this sacred tree, so their tribe is chasing stronger power than ever. At last, after he burst out of the corridor, they tore into the village. Everything about it felt gorgeous. Down on the ground sat houses, and up in the branches, even more homes clung to the trees like they belonged there. It felt like life and nature were living in perfect harmony, right in this place. Up on the roof of one of the houses, two elves stared in shock. Humans had actually been invited into their village. Hopefully, it doesn't mess up everything they've planned. Meanwhile, Hiro and his party burst into the village, staring around in sheer awe at everything around them. Yet somehow, they kept yanking everyone's eyes right to them. Hiro spotted a pack of stray kids lurking in the alley, and Smirnov leaned in and warned him, "Be ready to bolt any second. They're either here to grovel, or they're already coming for whoever's next. Either way, they'd better brace themselves for whatever hits next." Turns out their expectations got wrecked hard. The tribe members, especially the women, came sprinting toward them, fawning like they were royalty, because this was the first time humans had ever stepped into their village, so just how powerful were they? Smirnov was stunned. These guys were way more popular than anyone could have guessed. But then one of them leaned in and straight up asked if he already had a mate. And right when he was about to fire back with a flirt, Natasha screamed at them to back off right now. These people are Emeralda's guests, so if you try to act disrespectful, you'll get shut down fast. Smirnov couldn't figure out why she was fuming, but she shot down his accusation. Because nope, she's not angry, she's just jelly. Emeralda snapped Hiro back to the moment, asking if he was okay, and then warned him that the villagers can't handle raw power and always lose their restraint with outsiders. If they ever crossed the line or offended him, she wanted to apologize for them. Hiro froze in shock, then realized it was a good kind of shock because he truly expected the second they stepped into the village, someone would come swinging. Emeralda admitted those kinds of people really are out there, so if they get surrounded again, it's game over, meaning we've got to sprint to the mansion right now. Once the door shut behind them, they slipped into the mansion like they'd just crossed the line into danger. Emeraldi led them into her private room, and they slid into seats right across from Hiro's group. Hiro and Emilia swept their eyes around the room in awe, but the moment Emeralda snapped, "Let's get to the point," their curiosity instantly locked onto her. They claimed they were only there to greet them and watch the martial arts tournament, but she can't shake the feeling there's way more hiding behind those smiles. You heard that right, there aren't just one but two goals waiting for them. Emeralda got it right away and straight up asked the War Cat Ear tribe, "Do you need anything, or do you want us to sell something to you?" Honestly, it's both, because she has asterisk to know what's happening to their domain, right? It's a world where beastmen hunts sparked brutal clashes between humans and beastmen, and she's heard the old wars were drenched in deadly poisons and ruthless magic. So those attacks wreck the ground so badly that turning it into farmland feels impossible. And meanwhile monsters swarm around the blood-soaked soil. And it's brutal out there, just a blasted wasteland where humans can barely survive, so how on earth are they supposed to trade in a place like that? The hero unleashed his divine blessing, and the air seemed to ignite with power, which left Emeralda stunned. Every single one was a fresh revelation handed down by the gods. But almost nothing from that helps him personally. Still, this kind of raw power is treated like gold in human society. No joke, Hiro was born into the mighty noble house of Rothwell, but that power got him thrown out. His younger brother took over the house and Hiro got adopted and packed off to become lord. Esmeralda snapped, "So what are you really after in this land? Revenge for what your family did or conquest to replace the life they stole?" The hero dug his nails into his clenched fist and vowed to build a peaceful home for everyone. No hunger, no battles, because like she said, this land is brutally hard for humans to survive. For now, Emilia and the dragons hit the hunt, trading their hard-earned materials just to keep food on the table. But the moment more people crowd in, their supplies will run dry fast. That's why he knew they had to link up with the War Cat Ear tribe, the ones who truly know how to survive and thrive in the forest. And the other mission, snatch Emilia's little sister back, no matter what it costs. Emilia told him everything. If she loses the tournament, they'll drag her in to serve one of the elites by force. Esmeralda's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Was that the real reason she bolted from the village? What an idiot. Why didn't she go to them first? And because of what she did, her sister Amira got thrown into exile too. Emilia couldn't process what she was seeing. Her mind just refused to believe it. He leaned in and demanded Esmeralda repeat exactly what she just said. Esmeralda had to dig deep and fight tears just to say it. She had to admit they'd been kicked out and banished from the village. The hero cut right into their conversation, arguing that simply slipping out of the village without permission didn't deserve a punishment that brutal. This sacred rule was handed down for generations, guarding the divine tree and their clan blessed by the gods themselves. If anyone ever found where their village hides, the same horrors from the past would come roaring back. If word got out that someone from the weakest family had slipped away, the whole place would snap with suspicion. And yeah, some people even sell out their own tribe just to run with outlaw guilds. She snapped to Emilia, demanding why she never considered the danger she could unleash on her precious family, while Emilia was already starting to panic about Amira. A kid walked up to her, Amira, her own sister. She bolted over and threw her into a hug, trembling with relief that she was finally safe. "But why is she here?" Emerald answered it fast. Turns out she came to protect her. Right before the tournament, Amira got accused of running away, then they dragged her off to be forced into service, while her family got stripped of their standing and thrown into exile to balance the accounts. If that's true, Hiro couldn't help but wonder what Emilia and the others were supposed to do next. Emerald drops to a respectful bow before the hero, urging him to seriously consider letting those two join him in his domain. She knows she's pushing it way too far and she knows this request is crazy, but still, she dropped to begging, urging him to bend the rules just this once. The hero told her to lift her head. He'd be thrilled to welcome the two of them, then admitted he was worried the anti-human faction might snap at it, insisting he had zero bad intentions. But he had to ask about the kids they passed who were living on the streets. Turns out they're in the exact same mess Emilia is in. That's right, Esmeralda isn't ignoring the disaster, but in her spot, helping the weak only paints a target on her back. And even if she wants to shield them, she's got nothing she can do. Those kids are getting either dragged off to other villages to be worked like tools or shoved back into the earth. Those are the only choices they've got left. And if that's the case, the hero urged everyone to borrow those kids from the earlier trade offers. Because their lands need workers to turn dirt into something living, they'll handle food, clothes, and shelter for them, then push hard to teach them skills and training so they can thrive. Esmeralda was stunned. Why would he dare to make that kind of offer? Because it wouldn't look suspicious for the two girls to stay in the domain and it would give those street kids a fighting chance. She could even drop by the kids as family, and Esmeralda's heart melted at the way he showed it. He's shockingly mature for someone so young. Then, out of nowhere, a voice cuts in and snaps that Emerald can't just march on by herself. The elf tribe's envoy finally showed up, and that elf woman blew a gasket, saying she already filed the paperwork to get those children, and if she's not happy, she'll snap up that girl for any price. But Esmeralda cut her off, saying, "Don't be ridiculous, there's no way they'll ever sign a slave contract like this." Then she made it clear, she doesn't want money at all, she wants their future. So the elf woman's side of it, she came to lend a hand for the tournament, but then it got yanked out from under everyone, and the good faith labor contract she arranged got declared worthless. Now tell me, is she really ready to shatter a friendship that lasted 1,000 years just to sign a contract with humans? Does she even grasp what'll hit their village if the elf chief finds out? Emerald didn't flinch. If they're trying to drag war here, she and everyone else will fight back with everything they've got. As the argument started to boil over, Hiro shot straight between them because he refused to let a war ignite, and he fired off a proposal on the spot. This is the village of the War Cat Ear tribe. Here, strength isn't a preference, it's the law. So they should throw an intertribal martial arts tournament, settle this the hard way, dodge all the pointless bloodshed, and let the winner walk away with the negotiation rights. Emeralda's rage already burned hot. The War Cat Ear tribe won't retreat for a second. Getting protected without throwing down is an insult that stains the honor of their entire clan. Then she pitched it. The winning side would get one request granted by the losing village. Alexia, the elf woman, couldn't resist the challenge. She stepped forward and volunteered to represent the entire elf tribe in the tournament. Then it was decided. The War Cat Ear tribe's representative would be Emilia, and the tournament let her go wild with any kind of fighting, from blade-close brawls to long-range shots, but she still couldn't shake the worry. Would Emilia really be okay with the bow of Artemis? Emilia smiled and told her there was nothing to worry about, because they weren't just leaning on divine weapons, they had far more on their side. Amira stared in shock at her sister's brand-new look, and Emilia quickly told her the truth, that the thing on her eyes were glasses, a human-made artifact that could rewrite fate itself. She cupped Amira's face with tender hands, shocked at how much she's grown while they were apart, and even the tiny mole on her face matches their mother's perfectly. Amira couldn't stop staring, stunned that Emilia could finally see. No more squinting or guessing, she could see clearly now. Then Hiro swung the window open and Emilia looked outside. They brag about their domains all day because their bow, Princess Arrow aim, never misses, and they can even nail a falling leaf from 1,000 miles out. Emilia launched an arrow through the open window and it flew straight past them, like a warning made of lightning. Then the hero asked what she thought, and honestly, once he looked, he knew there was nothing to fear. The archer prodigy is back, and this time the whole arena should be terrified. So yeah, this tournament isn't just a game. It's a no-holds-barred fight for their tribe's pride, and in 3 days the intertribal martial arts tournament is about to kick off. After 3 long days of waiting, the intertribal martial arts tournament finally ignited. This tournament is going to be a brutal 3-tribe showdown. 3 sides collide, and only one can come out standing. Packed into the grand outdoor coliseum, watching the Warkadir tribe, the guardians of the sacred tree, the elf tribe, and the seekers of ancient wisdom step forward. And for the very first time, the humans they let into the village step in, while from every group their deadliest warriors come together. First, Garius War Cat Ear tribe's mightiest fighter uses sheer, unbreakable strength to punch through targets even at extreme distances. Second, her magical arrows shine so fine they can pierce even a spider's threads, and that's why she's known as the unparalleled magic archer Alexia. Once they hailed her as a prodigy until she vanished, only to be rescued by humans after she fled the village, and now she lives on as a fallen memory, Emilia. The fate of their whole tribes is hanging by a thread, and it all comes down to these 3 warriors. The crowd started booing Emilia like crazy, screaming that she was a traitor after she bent the knee to the humans. Smirnov scanned the area, and even in enemy territory this hit different. Compared to the moment they stepped into the village, it was a total shock. Rage boiled in Joel's veins as she plotted to wipe out anyone who dared hurt her mama. Then Emilia stepped in and stopped her. With the glasses the hero handed her and the Artemis bow Smirnov got back, she strides up to the crowd ready to absolutely crush it and win, cheers shaking the air around her. The host boomed that this martial tournament could happen only because the elf tribe teamed up. Then they rolled out a whole stash of incredible artifacts. First comes a protective enchantment. Sure, the fights roar on in the grand arena, but a massive barrier slams over the whole field to shield the spectators from every stray strike. Everything inside gets blasted up onto the sky and the fighting rules go wild. Revelations and weapons are fair game. Just remember, no fatalities allowed. Any damage inside that barrier gets sucked away and dumped onto a human-shaped stand-in. It recreates every single injury exactly, so if a limb gets smashed, the real fighter instantly loses movement in that same spot. Take a hit that crosses the critical damage line and the warrior drops out cold. Defeat comes fast. And if you swing after their proxy is already destroyed, then touch that line and you're done, because they'll smack you with a full-force lightning spell to knock you out cold. Looks like the competitors finally stormed in and took their starting spots. Every last prep is locked and loaded. Now watch, Emeralda is about to signal the match's kickoff. This isn't just any battle, who wins decides who rules this land, no question. She can't wait to see what kind of fight matches stakes this huge, and that's how the intertribal martial tournament kicks off. Amelia ducked behind a rock, praying this hiding spot was finally safe enough. Garius' revelation snaps into place as total concealment, and Alexia unleashes magical arrows like a deadly storm. So now she's locked into a brutal disadvantage with her range, so she'll bide her time and watch closely until someone else makes the first move. Right then Garius charged up to her. Amelia Curse took the hit head-on. Her proxy copied the exact hit she took, and panic instantly swallowed the hero. The host blares the moment and Gary snaps into action, getting rocked by a brutal, unexpected strike. Then at the very start he already wipes out one opponent. Or at least that's what they convinced themselves of. Amelia clung to her feet, because without Hero's blessing that would have been the end for her. Hero couldn't believe Garius would gamble like that, until the ancient dragon snapped the truth into place. Nobody expects a long-range archer to suddenly rush in for a point-blank strike, so yeah, it's reckless, but it's not exactly stupid. But Hero could feel it. Something was way off, and dread crawled up his spine like a storm was coming. Amelia never expected Garius to charge straight at her. So does that mean he thinks she's an easy target with no stealth needed? Then she'll snap back fire with zero hesitation. Amelia fires her first shot, and right at this level, Garius has no choice but to dodge because she needs him moving so she can slam him with the follow-up. But he didn't dodge it, so the arrow smashed into his head. But he snapped into motion and sprinted back toward her. So she fired off even more arrows, and he just kept swallowing every single one head-on. Garius lunged forward, swinging at Amelia again with nothing but pure momentum. She had no more moves left, those blows kept coming straight at her. Then she launched into an aerial maneuver and vaulted up onto a tree branch, so why was he gambling with something this reckless? She had to regroup fast. But before she could lift a finger, Garius slipped in behind her and he drove her to the ground and pinned her beneath him, way stronger than any beastman should ever be. If this keeps going, she's finished. But just when she expected the worst, Garius shocked her, begging her to take him down. He couldn't believe it, his drink had been spiked by those elves. He told her to watch out because they were absolutely up to something. If he's going to lose anyway, he'd rather get taken down by one of his own, and he's convinced even a failure like her could still drive that bow straight through his heart. A Warcadeer warrior would rather die than ever fall to defeat. And if a fighter like him actually begs to lose, Amelia can't even begin to fathom the kind of pain tearing through him. So listen up, fellow warrior. She's going to throw every ounce of strength she has into the fight. Amelia shoved Garius off her, snatched an arrow and leveled it straight at him. A straight strike won't land and even one crushing arrow won't cut it, but with Hero's blessing she can pull it off right now. And if someone like her can fail, she still finds a way to win. No, this is the one shot, the only second that matters. She loosed the arrows. With her divine blessing, she unleashes divine lightning speed. Rapid multi-shot. Garius' eyes blew wide the moment those arrows slammed into him. What the hell, how did she pull that off for real? He crumpled to the ground at the right as his proxy detonated and stunned the crowd. The host blared the news Amelia had beaten Garius. Looks like that crushing loss just broke her tribe's strongest warrior. Amelia clutched her side. Sure, the human-shaped proxy is supposed to stop injuries, but the pain and crushing exhaustion still hits her like a brick. Then she spun to the fallen Garius, certain he'd been crushed by something truly brutal. Right then, her divine blessing kicked in, and danger detection snapped to life. An arrow tore past her hair, slicing the air in a blink. Alexia unleashed the attack. She totally wrote Amelia off as a failure. Then Amelia straight up dodged her attack, and the only consolation was that she smashed her glasses, which at least counted as something. Amelia shot a cold glare at her, blood spilling down her cheek. Alexia's surprise strike came in hard, but it got dodged, and Amelia was saved by revealed by the Warcadeer tribes. Amelia got lucky and dodged it because of that revelation, but losing the glasses might as well be the final punch. So why in the world would Alexia, the elf tribe's representative, pull something like this? Amelia couldn't stand it anymore, so she marched up and asked what her plan was. He filled her in on what Garius said. He swore they're hiding something, even went and poisoned him. Alexia clutched a bottle in her hand. Wait, could she mean this? A berserker potion she made to rip the body free from pain and unleash strength beyond human limits, but the catch is brutal. You lose every ounce of self-control. She couldn't stop wondering how Amelia pulled off that win and wiped out the side effect with her own formula, because right now it looks like her recipe still isn't quite there. Amelia can't believe it. She's even ready to poison someone just to take the tournament, and Alexia told her to say that to Garius. Garius, the mighty warrior, was so desperate to claim victory that he practically pleaded with her for that potion. Still, what she always handed him was a drug that turned his body into a weapon, sharper, faster, stronger, and Amelia demanded to know what her real goals were. Alexia leaned in and told him she started out in education, then got sent to this village to teach magic. But in this village, kids with no fighting skills, those who have lost their parents or been abandoned, get left with nowhere to go. Every year, hundreds of kittens get thrown away to the streets, because some cruel belief says only strength matters, so they slowly fade in the shadows of alleyways waiting for death. Alexia threw out one reform after another and begged for support plans, but the world tuned her out. Nobody even listened to a single word. So she threw away her life as a teacher and stepped up as the village's envoy. Because the elven forest was drowning in labor shortages, and she quietly hid abandoned children there under the mask of slavery, giving them a shot at survival. Which because of this the kids can. He branded her the devil's slave merchant, ripping siblings and friends apart while soaking up their screams and despair again and again, until her heart finally hit its breaking point, and then Garius showed up with a proposal. He swore that if he became the strongest in the village, he'd flip everything upside down, and the only way to make it happen was to get his hands on powerful magic potions. She trusted him with the drug, and for a moment it almost felt like it would work, but in the end, power swallowed him whole and nothing changed at all. She froze because that's when it finally hit her. If she wants something, she won't stop until she gets it, no matter what. She's got to grab it with her own hands, no excuses. Alexia loosed an arrow into the air, then slammed her Thunderbolt arrow prison into action. A brutal magical blast slammed down, lightning crawled into place and trapped Amelia, using the arrow as its power source. And here's the nightmare, this barrier won't cancel magic at all, so Amelia has to throw in the towel before it's game over. Amelia snapped into confusion. If the barrier's damage is supposed to get swallowed by the proxy, then why were real injuries showing up on her body? Don't worry about it, she aims at Alexia and fires an arrow straight toward the prison break. Did she really think Alexia wouldn't see an assault this massive coming? Because she snapped that arrow aside with a windshield. Alright then, Amelia just needs. She had to smash those expectations, so she sprinted past Alexia and snapped her bow right to her head. At this distance, a defensive spell won't cut it, so if she flips the revelation on, she just needs one clean strike. Then Alexia closed in. Amelia's strength was wild, but the shock wasn't enough. She was already ready for an attack just like that. She unleashed an arrow tornado that slammed straight into Amelia, then her spell landed a critical hit, turning Amelia's own opening against her in the worst way. That's a devastating blow, no question. That magic hits hard and guards him too, and it's not going down that easily. Julie couldn't help but worry Amelia might lose, and the ancient dragon snapped back that things were about to get brutally dire. The hero calmed her down and promised she had nothing to fear. Amelia had a secret set of magic words that could supercharge her strength, and Joel immediately leaned in, begging him to tell her exactly what those words were. So he leaned in and whispered it into her ear, urging her to shout it out so Amelia could hear every word. The two of them cheered at the top of their lungs, praying Amelia could hear them. Amelia's ear twitched like she just caught the faintest warning. Their voices cut through the haze and they shoved themselves upright, refusing to go down just yet. Alexia came up to her demanding, "Be honest, do you really think you can keep fighting?" Because from where she stood, it looked like all her choices had already run out. Amelia's eyes went wide with shock. Every one of the bow's gems was shattered, and that revelation had already kicked into action. No, she needs to stay calm and fall back for now, yet Alexia would never ever allow it. She unleashed that power, fired a shockwave blast, then drew her arrow and aimed. This is where everything ends. With that range, Amelia's world snaps blurry. Everything turns to mush until she puts her glasses back on. She couldn't slip away from Alexia's scatter shot, then it blasted all over her body piece by piece. If only she could have crafted her own glasses, she'd learned once, but the words Hiro said slipped out of her mind the moment she tried to hold onto them. As the seconds ticked by, her glasses melted right out of existence. They're totally useful, but they don't stick around for long, and that's the real problem. The hero broke it down for her like it's just daily magic you practice, then leaned in and pushed, "Go on, make your own." All she had to do was shave it down, trap it under clear ice so nothing could get in, starting with the air. And then, when she carved the ice, a convex lens blew everything up while a concave lens shrank it down. Amelia tilted her head, completely lost. She just couldn't make sense of it, and honestly, this was probably you too the very first time you heard about it. Hiro clenched his hand into a fist, lined up the hole with his eye, and told Amelia to give it a shot. He swore it would help her see farther, even if just a bit. She tried it anyway, and her eyes lit up with shock. It's faint, but she can see clearer now. She could totally turn a long tube into a far-seeing tool by slapping lenses on the front and back. But she can't just glue ice to her hands, so yeah, she needs to learn how to make real, proper glasses. She had nothing left but this, so she shoved her anger into a tight fist and slammed ice onto both sides. The bulge swells bigger and bigger until she spots the target piece by piece. Then she sharpens the shape, thins it out, and fires the tube forward. The moment it happened, the hero clocked exactly what she was trying to pull. It was just a sniper lens, then boom, she's turning it into binoculars. So yeah, Alexia hit a wall with all that nonsense, and with one ruthless move, she decided to take them down with this strike. She snapped her bowstring back, loaded with countless arrows, each one screaming to be fired, and turn the tide with a single strike. Amelia does the same. If she can't use her hands, then she'll find another way. Then she hooks it with her legs and yanks it back. She snapped her attack free and then let it go. Super heavy class arrow, an absolute monster of a strike. Right as Alexia fired hers, Arrow unleashed his maximum power lightning arrow. Plunging arrows crashed into Alexia's over and over, until the air itself seemed to explode with impacts. Amelia was sure one arrow couldn't ever pierce her magic. Then her arrow tore through anyway and slammed straight into her chest. There was no way, impossible in every direction. She struck down by a brutal failure, and right before she crumples to the ground, those are the last words out of her mouth. With her proxy cutting loose, the host blared the truth. The weakest of the tribe just landed a death blow, and the victor is Amelia, so the tournament's winner is humanity. Amelia's sniper lens sizzled and melted right before their eyes. Right as her tears started to spill, she pulled it off. She actually did it. To celebrate their hard-won victory, the hero fired up the stove and cooked a feast for everyone. Amira loved every single second of it. She never thought slime could taste that good. Jill grabbed her some more and urged her to try again. Yeah, it's just fried potatoes, but one bite and you're hooked like it's a whole crime. Hiro smiled like this was made for her, and it matched her color palette perfectly. Because it's a victory feast, they better gorge themselves and eat their fill. Amira couldn't help but admire him. So young, yet he commands serious military power, knows more than anyone his age, and somehow even cooks like a pro. Amelia rubbed her head and nodded, saying the hero could do anything and had answers for everything, because thanks to him, they were able to save her. But Hiro shot back in disagreement, because Amelia busted her tail for the village too, and now she finally gets to go home, while Gol is stuck grinding even harder to manage the territory. Emilio was seconds away from asking what he asterisk really meant by all that. Then, out of nowhere, they heard someone blurting in confusion, and it was Alexia. Emeralda stood before her and delivered the news flat out. She'd been officially kicked out of the clan, and the same exile sentence was handed to Garius for the very same crime, leaving them to stare at the crushing disgrace they dumped on their own bloodline. She tossed Alexia a crumpled piece of paper, stuffed with everything she needed to read, right there, clear and detailed so she could study it closely. Alexia demanded to know what would happen to the kittens, and Emeralda snapped back that there's already a pact with Hiro, so she didn't have to worry a single bit. The hero burst in with a bold speech. He had a proposal ready to fire. Alexia and Garius, he couldn't wait to invite them into his territory. Nobody else laid down rules for what to do with exiles, so what did he have planned for them? Alexia yanked the tiniest cover over her chest, barely hiding anything at all, then accused him, straight-faced, of turning her into his captive. Amelia and Amira snapped at her, seething that Hiro would never stoop to that level, and begged her not to drag him into anything that smells like Smirnoff. No, not Smirnoff slander. Alexia let out a long sigh like the answer was slipping away. So what was he up to? Smirnoff stepped in and spoke first, insisting that he honestly thinks Hiro wasn't planning anything at all. This soft-hearted idiot always puts everyone else first, but this time, nah, that won't save him. The moment both sides recognize each other as allies, his divine revelation ignites, and by now the whole Warkadir tribe should already be feeling it. And this is the real proof. When the Warkadir tribe finally drops under his banner, Hiro doesn't just win a fight. He becomes the Grand Lord, ruling the Demon Forest and the Warkadir village with one command. With everything they've got on their side, the former Kingdom Sword Saint, the Warkadir tribe's Bow Princess, and the two titans of the Dragon Clan. Even a great nation's army would hesitate, and now the Warkadir tribe's soldiers are stepping in too, so the elf chief struck first. By severing ties with the people behind it all, he can play innocent no matter how hard the blame slams into him. No more obeying their leader, because if he crosses into their turf, they'll mark him as a full-on invader. And here's the thing, letting exiles serve as subordinates could blow up into a full-on political war, so the hero knows he'll need a rock-solid reason. Sure, it'll be a hassle to go all that way just to accept them, but honestly, skipping it would be a waste because Alexia's a teacher. From now on, they're going to bring in war kids, catty clans, and tribes alike, so they'll need proper education, and leaving someone like her behind just because they've already used her would be a total waste. And Garius? Same reason, his full-on stealth makes him perfect for guarding the big names, especially Jack, who's been contacting fresh trade partners. The bigger that exchange grows, the more security has to be locked down. Smirnov scratched his head, realizing the hero had thought this through way harder than he expected. Because of course he had, it was his duty as a lord. Then he spun to Alexia, telling her she could say no, while asking anyway, even though he knew it was totally unreasonable. But the kindness she showed, dropping everything to save others, is exactly what these kids need. A young kid from the Warcat Ear tribe stepped up to her, closing the distance with bold, battle-ready confidence, begging her to become their teacher. Alexia gently cups the child's face, her touch soft but full of meaning. They said they'd do it only if they were satisfied with someone like her. Emerald told Amelia, Hiro's a genuinely good man, and Amelia didn't hesitate to agree. He was so insanely good that it almost feels scary. Emeralda chose to shut her curiosity down and not dig into what was really troubling her. She might be backing her up, but now she's got her own proposal ready to throw into the ring. Amelia's power finally exploded in the tournament, and as she keeps growing, the road to becoming a clan chief is going to open up for her. Emerald shot Amelia a question. Did she want to head back to the village? Amelia turned to Hiro and said she'd need to ask him first. He scratched the back of his head and totally dodged her eyes, then said he thought it was an awesome deal. She could be back with her family and later rise up and become a chief. Isn't that great? Amelia's brows snapped together in pure confusion. What did he mean by family when she's literally his wife? Hiro leaned in and said it was all just for appearances, so she didn't have to stress, because families are happiest when they stay together. Amelia marched right up to him and smashed her palm into his face. The hero pressed his swollen cheek with a grimace and blurted out, utterly baffled after seeing Amelia break down in tears. So yeah, Gol and Amira both chewed him out, demanding he chase after Amelia. Still totally lost, he swallowed his questions and did exactly what she said, then trailed behind her like he had no choice. Emerald watched them and sighed. Hiro was supposed to be amazing, but he looked painfully inexperienced, and the ancient dragon seemed to confirm it without even trying to hide the truth. And yeah, running a domain is a massive responsibility, but it's easy to forget he's still just a kid, right in the middle of his prime youth. Hiro spotted Amelia by a tree, her back turned as if she'd been waiting for trouble, and the moment they'd met, she'd already decided he couldn't be trusted. The more time she spent with him, the more her jaw dropped. He casually popped an elixir, dropped divine revelations like it was nothing, used nose-based magic and even handcrafted glasses just for her. Hiro still insists it's all luck, like the knowledge just fell into his hands and the divine revelations were pure chance, not because he's special. But he's absolutely convinced it's the real truth. Amelia couldn't stand that stubborn streak one bit, but even that stubborn streak is still. And that's exactly why she's head over heels for him. She strode right up to him. She yanked his clothes in her grip and pulled him right toward her. She leaned on him, then panic hit her. Wait, am I no longer needed? Is that why he's telling her to go back to the village? Can't she stay with him, or is this truly the end? Hiro scooped her into a fierce hug and apologized right away, because that wasn't what he meant at all. And yeah, he loved her too. Amelia just wanted Hiro to finally say it first, because of course he's still as unreliable as ever, but even so, he'd still chosen one thing: he wanted her to stay. Then they lunge in and smash their lips together in a fiery kiss. After the confession, they stood shoulder to shoulder, soaking in the breathtaking view like the world had finally gone quiet. "It'd be nice if we had a spot like this too," Amelia said, cheeks burning, because for a second she thought he was talking to her, but then she realized he was staring at the view. When they finally came back, Hiro couldn't stop thinking, come on, those fields better be planted and something should be growing by now. He just wanted the territory to look more developed at last, even if he didn't know exactly when, because someday he's dreaming of slowing down and building his own gardens. Amelia pushed him on why he was rushing to set up the domain, and demanded to know if there was a real reason he kept urging her to head back to the village. Yeah, his suspicions snapped into certainty the moment Smirnov rolled in with the craftsman, because that can only mean his territory is about to get hit with real danger. No hold-up signals have been popping up for a while, and at this rate, the Rothwell territory's finances are about to crash, like a floor giving way beneath everyone. Inside the Earl's Manor in the heart of the Rothwell territory, on the dining table, all they got was a humble bowl of soup and a few chunks of bread. Oliver seethed with rage and hucked the plate at the chef, demanding to know what on earth those were. Meet the Rothwell family. Royal power just elevated them, granting them the title of Earl as the king's shield. So how dare he serve this commoner's food to the head of the house? Marie's son took one brave spoonful of soup, then smiled at his father, hoping the warmth would calm him down and prove they could have something like this every now and then. Then he snapped his head to the chef and demanded, "How long have you been working here?" And the chef just grinned and said, 20 years. So he's been here for years, back when Mari's son wasn't even born yet. And with that kind of time on the books, his paycheck has to be fat, meaning he's bet the chef is living pretty damn comfortably. The chef snapped his hand like, no way, but with 3 daughters at home, his budget is basically burning nonstop. But getting to cook for the Earl and his whole family would be the highest honor of all, and the Rothwells are proud that he gets to work for them. Then it's official, he's getting fired today. The chef dropped to his knees and begged, pleading for one more chance, right before the plea was cut off. He's saying it's gotten brutal to find decent ingredients lately. He'd never serve anything beneath his name. But if he loses his job, the whole family gets kicked onto the streets, and his daughters will probably spend the rest of their lives cursing their useless father. Marie-san sank into deep thought. Yeah, that would be downright cruel. So why not hire his own family to serve as his personal bed attendants? Mari's son snapped his gaze to his father and demanded permission. And Oliver straight up told him, do whatever you want. Mary's son beamed and waved at the chef as the guards dragged him off, then growled that if they didn't move fast and pull his whole family back, he'd have every single one executed. Oliver watched Mari's son like a hawk, but he could never read what was really going on inside his head until the hero got exiled. Now he's finally showing exactly who he is. Lately, it looks like Oliver's been quietly plotting behind the curtain, because once his divine revelation hits, he'll spring into action without hesitation. Mari's son stared at the mess and blurted, asking Oliver if he had any clue how everything spiraled into this. Oliver snapped, Mars, the woman who's both his secretary and his maid, then quizzed her about where their money stood right now and demanded she fetch the quarter's income and expense report. Mars slid it over, and the second he started reading the report, shock hit so hard he sprang to his feet and knocked his chair flying. He couldn't stop spiraling. Why's the tax revenue so damn low? Why are they only squeezing out half the taxes from the farmers, and why are the crops refusing to grow at all? Mars, don't just blurt things out, apologize for speaking out of turn. But look, those crops are still pushing up out of the soil, growing strong, and even if the drought twisted the harvest, it didn't stop them. And yeah, Oliver finally heard about it. The inland mountain blew up, and the rain came hard enough to save the crops from being totally wiped out. With Marison's divine revelations, the crops are supposed to grow faster than ever. Sounds like the perfect excuse to dodge taxes, right? But here's the real catch. Even with Marison's divine revelations lighting the way, the crops are still growing at a snail's pace, too little and way too slow. So Mari-san, report in hand, finally clocked what was really going on. Some trading companies barely paid a dime in taxes compared to last term, and that's exactly why tax revenue has taken a nosedive. The Ardmic Merchant Guild has been rolling in massive loads of jaw-dropping treasures, see serpent scales, Medusa's eyes, and even demon boar meat, all insanely rare and worth a fortune. Taxes hit trading companies only when their income comes in, so if they're just buying stock, there's no tax bill. Then they sell in the richest territories, rake in the cash, and watch the taxes never show up. Oliver snapped at them and demanded, "Where are the goods coming from?" because this vile wood was screaming it wasn't safe. Mari's son smirked like he knew a secret no one else could believe, then leaned in and told Oliver the rumor he'd just heard. Turns out, deep in that cursed forest, there's a hidden village sheltering refugees, and in its center stands a savior who leads a dragon. Oliver's side of the story, every inch of that land is cursed, drenched in blood from the beast man hunts, so yeah, it was nothing but a wild, ridiculous fantasy. Then he spun toward Mars and demanded she grab Lillian, only to learn she'd already vanished, Lillian rushing off to chase Hero. As the forest's witch, she should have known anything right then. Oliver blurted in shock, demanding what in the north was going on. Mars figured he could wait like they were just barbarians, but then, out of nowhere a few days back, they started smashing into their territory. Oliver yanked her collar, demanding why she hadn't reported it right away. Didn't he warn her that the barbarians would move once Lillian was involved? Their military might matches the kingdom's own army, and since they're just now stalling their answer, who knows how much damage they're about to unleash. Suddenly, Lillian's words from his office snapped back in his head: tax crisis, barbarian invasion, and now a refugee village guarded by a dragon. How in the world did it spiral this far? When the twins were born, the whole land shook. Crops sprouted like crazy, racing along at twice their usual speed as divine blessings poured in. Oliver was sure one of them was carrying a revelation so powerful it could change everything. During the rite of Oracle, Mari's son finally got the revelation, because the eldest hero's power failed right when it mattered. So he threw out the useless one and boom, crop yields crashed to under half while tax revenue nosedived. Did he really mess up? The divine blessings, the whole mess with the dragon, it all felt like it was building toward something that just might be his undoing. So, was it all set in motion by the hero's stunning revelation? No way, it can't be. But wait, what if he swallowed that exile like it was all some massive plan? Nope, he's a natural-born fool, the kind who's so kind it turns into a weakness, and even after being fired from the job he'd held for 10 years, he never once complained, just took it like an idiot. And don't fool yourself, people like him don't change fast, not even him. He's been their hero ever since their past life, so yeah, he was the one who pushed him off the cliff back in their past life. And when he finally showed up at Hashikawa Industries, sheer shock hit him like a punch. He claimed he was just breaking down after his parents died, but the real truth hit harder. It was all Oliver's doing. That accident happened because he was drunk at the wheel, raining cats and dogs, no witnesses and zero security cameras, so when his victims turned out to be people from his own company, burying it became painfully easy. He even picked a fight over the life insurance payout, then used that money to rescue his collapsing guild and finally live the comfortable life he'd earned. That's the way he survived in this world too, because that's just how life is. And it's because he only knows how to take from other people when it comes to desperate schemes. Nobody tops him. So now tell me, what is he going to do next in this mess? Mary's son slouched against the table and basically dared them to let him handle the savior job, because if he couldn't crack a solid plan, they'd better have a backup. Then Oliver shot back instantly. No way were they doing that. Was he really suggesting they bow to the disowned heir? Nah, it didn't need to go that far. That cursed forest sits inside the Rothwell estate and they're only letting the hero run it, nothing more. And if there's a village there or a dragon stirring the shadows, then yeah, it belongs to whoever calls it home. So he finally cooked up a plan, then he shouted for George. He's just a low-ranked noble, but when he swings his blade, his swordplay is on a whole different level. He's no full-on sword saint, but he's terrifyingly close. Dragon power would cut down those northern barbarians in a blink, so they realized the nightmare was reversed and suddenly, it was them who'd be wiped out. He snapped, telling George to ride straight to the village and blast out a royal decree. The dragon and its tamer were marching to the northern front lines. George will take the helm of the Dragon Mercenary Corps and stand up as the savior of their land. But if the news drops that the unfortunate heir has been exiled, only to come back with a dragon at his side. If the disgruntled people get pushed too far, they'll rise up and revolt, so they'll brand the village as a nest of heretics and wipe it off the map completely. They could just call the whole village a nest of heretics and act like it never even existed. Oliver ordered George to storm into the vile wood and bring back the dragon, and its master then made it clear how their power once crushed the northern barbarians. George snapped to attention and accepted the order, and demanded what he should do if they fought back, because the only thing Oliver really wants is the dragon's power, and once he has it, he'll do whatever he pleases with the rest. If he can control the dragon himself, the dragon master becomes useless, and if they dare disobey the royal decree, he'll torch the entire village to ashes. George nodded, agreed to the plan, and then bolted toward Vilewood. At the Rothwell State Office, Oliver slumped onto his desk, locked in deep thought about the mess unfolding around him. If they seize the dragon's power, a whole century of prosperity is locked in, because with power like that, even founding their own nation might stop being a dream. Frontier's savior, do you see it? They're here only to line their lord's pockets, and they're supposed to live with their heads bowed, groveling in obedient silence. He once swore back in his old life, if Hero wants to use my knowledge, he's gotta get me reborn, and turns out he was dead wrong. No matter how desperately the hero racks his brain or how hard he grinds his teeth and tries, even in this world, take everything from him, watch his whole life get ripped away. So we're really back in the demon forest. The hero and his crew finally blasted back into the vile wood. Amelia blurted out an apology because she never in a million years thought they'd be stuck in that village for a whole month. Hero reassured her it was fine because that brutal stretch of non-stop rain basically forced the whole delay, no choice. And honestly, while they were stuck, they finally got to dig into all the facilities and projects, plus he even studied real history and geography, so yeah, it ended up being worth it. Smirnoff asked if it was really safe to be gone from the territory this long, but Hero had already set everything up so it would all be okay. He sent the ancient dragon and Amira back first to stand guard, and Jewel rode along too, so if anything goes wrong, there's no doubt they'll come running with the report. Still, Smirnoff snapped him out of his daze. Don't drop your guard. Out there beyond the nest, every single step is lethal. Hero couldn't help but ask, what in the world was he getting at? Natasha spotted tracks from a huge pack of demon wolves. So yeah, if that's true, they're still lurking around here. The hero snapped in shock when a demon wolf lunged from the bushes and sprang up behind him. Smirnoff and Natasha scrambled up, burning to reach him fast. But it turned out to be just a tiny puppy. Then, like shadows breaking free, Joel and Amira burst out of the bushes and swore that Hero had caught Carol for them. Hero froze in shock when he saw Gol and Amira, then blurted, "Who's this kid?" Amira said that's the little one's name. The ancient dragon gave it right before Amelia stopped short, realizing the creature was. It was a super rare evolved demon wolf, a Cerberus. Joel told me the Cerberus Caro was getting picked on, so she stepped in and helped them, because if he stayed outside, the bullying would start all over again. But then that ancient dragon went full menace, snarling that he wasn't allowed into the house. He told her if Hero gives the go-ahead, Carol can stay, so she turned to Hero and asked, "Can we keep Carol at home?" Hero spun toward Natasha and asked if they could keep a demon wolf, and she shrugged like it was totally fine. If they treat it right, it'll accept them as family and start bonding with humans too, and with the right training it can even become a hunting partner or a fierce guard. So Joel begged Hiro to keep Caro, and after mulling it over, Hiro finally said that he nodded and agreed to welcome Caro into the territory, and when Smirnoff and Natasha wore those shaky, unsure faces, it was like the air itself knew the truth. With a divine dragon lord and a Cerberus teaming up, they could probably erase a few countries. Amira crouched low, grinning like she'd just won. Finally, those scary allies can't bully them anymore. Joel nodded hard, and with Caro in the family now, she was ready to tell everyone no more worrying. Then it hit her, she remembered. She rushed to Hiro and told him, "There's trouble at home," and right away everyone promised, "We'll talk to you the second you get back." After hearing that, he bolted behind Joel, racing through 100 worst-case scenes. What kind of trouble hit them, monsters or bandits or some nasty epidemic? But the ancient dragon was still there, so he couldn't wrap his head around it. What in the world went wrong? And the second they stepped into that territory, they stared in disbelief. This village didn't look like ruins anymore. The fields were all neat and thriving, and the mansion was fully restored. Yeah, it wasn't just important. It was the kind of huge that actually matters. An ancient dragon swept toward them, then warned, "Karo's been accepted too." The hero snapped at him for leaving a little kid like that, and the ancient dragon shot back that Joel only found Karo after the barrier was already raised. Dragons cast this barrier spell to guard their treasures, and if you come with bad intentions or you're not approved by their master, you don't get through, not a single exception. Once it's up, there's nothing anyone can do. The hero just stared like, wait, why would I even throw up a barrier to mess with the ancient dragons? What was he thinking? Do you really think 30 pieces of silver on a carriage can cover the non-stop work of patrolling the skies every single day? With the barrier up, the enemies can't break in, so tell me we're totally safe, right? Hero shot back, if you can just pop up a barrier like that, then what are we even supposed to do when new settlers finally come? At that exact moment, Jack burst up behind him and tried to calm him down, because deep inside he just knew that ancient dragon wasn't out to hurt anyone. Then he leaned in and teased him. If you'd come back any later, he'd start burning the leftover budget on booze. But wait, what did he mean by leftover? Jack scratched his head because yeah, he couldn't believe it either. He dropped off the farming tools, and just 2 weeks later he got the message. The wheat and soybeans were already harvested. What's bursting up in the fields right now? It's the fresh new batch they just planted, taking off fast. Right now the storage is packed to the brim, so they dumped the overflow on the town market, and he pocketed the profits as part of Hero's personal stash. 2 harvests in a single month, something's about to go down. It has to be the power behind the hero's divine revelation. If so, they can end the food shortage, but rushing harvests like that could spark a whole new disaster. He called out to the woman near the fields, demanding answers to his questions about what mess she's dealing with in her everyday life. Turns out they can't keep up, crops shoot up too fast, so they're forced to keep carving out fresh land and rotating the fields, or the soil will burn out. Hero clocked it and muttered that it's wasting away faster than the farmland in Rothwell. The woman nodded with a heavy sigh, and still, the men didn't lift a finger. After the mansion got fixed up and the sheds finally went up, everything just stalled. Now they're barely lifting a finger, and it's nothing but daily drinking parties with that ancient dragon. They said they were short on carpenters, so they fired off the guys to lend a hand, while the women had to hustle and clear the farmland alone, and the men just kicked back and took it easy. The hero stared at the ancient dragon, and sweat poured off it like it was terrified, so that's what was really going on. He needs to grab everyone immediately. He told the women to go call the men and rush to the mansion, and while Amira and the others helped round people up, the whole place started coming alive fast. After they finally left to do exactly what he said, he just kept going here. The hero leaned in and demanded to know exactly how much Jack had stashed in his own personal assets. He's sitting on 300 gold coins in his account. Hero just nodded like, yeah, but he blurted out in shock the second he saw just how huge the amount really was. Jack said they didn't just sell ultra-rare materials and rare ingredients, they even handled the harvest too, which is why this price is already insanely discounted. 1 gold coin is worth 10 silver coins, and the average household pulls in around 250 silver coins every single year. With only his own personal assets, he could hold and run that territory for a full decade. They can plug the labor shortage with beastkin kits. Yeah, it'll cost them a bit, but it's their best shot to keep everyone fed and working for a while. Amelia stared at him, eyes narrowing. What did he mean by that? Was he really talking about taking care of every single citizen on his own? And honestly, it wasn't like he was even saying provide outright. He's not stealing, he's living off what the citizens pay in taxes, money, and crops. So when a noble sits in luxury, it drains the people dry and they end up suffering. If you're high up in power, you don't just get respect, you inherit the same weight of duty, no exceptions. So as the ruler of the land, he has to back the people and give them all he can. His own crew flat out argued back, insisting there was no way that was normal. Amelia gets exactly what he means, but she shuts it down. She won't carry the whole weight of everyone's life, because the people who came here aren't just helpless beggars. She's not even sure she gets it all, but she grabs him and demands, "Tell me, what are you really trying to do?" Then Hiro finally reveals his dream, a world where hunger doesn't exist. No, wait, that's not the whole truth. He wants to build a world where nobody throws up walls, just people who step in, help out, and stand together. He squeezed his arm, an old habit from his past life, and swore this word was packed with useless cruelty. In a feudal world, it's basically a two-team game. The ones who squeeze everyone dry and the ones forced to take it, where nobles rake in fat taxes and comfy lives while the common folk get crushed under suffering. Now that he's armed with everything he's learned, he sees a ton of ways to pull in real wealth. And if he can build a system where profit still flows even under crushing high taxes, he's convinced they can forge a stable society with serious welfare for everyone. If they can build a town where everyone gets to live happy, then the neighboring lands and even other countries will start copying it, and that's exactly how he plans to spread his dream, one step at a time. A circle of happiness? Amelia couldn't help but wonder if changing how the world works was even real, but Hiro only smirked and gave her that look. Up to now, he's always been the one needing saving, yet from this moment on, it's his turn to prove what he can do. First, he's going to make every single citizen jump into public works projects. When everyone finally showed up at the Lord's estate, Hiro stepped forward and thanked them, shouting his gratitude for every repair they made and for keeping the houses running while he was gone. He got the full rundown on what's happening, weighed every detail, and then snapped, "There's no time to waste," they had to move fast. So yeah, he wants to ask all of you directly. And he pushes all of them to jump into some major public works projects. Every village was left utterly baffled, making Smirnov let out a deep sigh like, "You really didn't tell me." And then he snapped back, "You've never even heard of it. It's only because Smirnov comes from a noble family and wouldn't know. If even the farmers and builders are clueless, then we're out of luck." So Hiro will break it down fast and explain it for everyone. Noble rulers who control whole stretches of land often push for bridges and even massive castle gates, and that's exactly the same idea as public works. He's ready to foot the bill and he's demanding everyone jump in to build and develop the area, so Smirnov pressed him, "What are you planning to make? A road, a bridge, or are we talking some fancy villa?" What Hiro wouldn't want them to build their own homes. They can pick any spot in his territory to build, but they've got to tell him exactly where they're going first, before the first plank goes down. Smirnov protested, "Are you seriously saying it's not that way too much?" The hero snapped his head toward him, demanding to know if Smirnov really thought building their own homes was too much. Smirnov's face twisted into a scowl as he snapped that pretending he didn't know was pointless, because when nobles build, it's just tax policy with nicer clothes. They force common people who can't pay to do the work, then nail the debt back on everyone's backs by charging tolls to use the roads and bridges. They make people build houses just to turn around and charge them rent for existing in them. Yeah, it's a fast cash scheme, but even a gentle lord like him has to feel how brutally coercive this is. The villagers nodded along and basically told him, "We've got nothing left, so if you pull a stunt like this, they'll make Hiro hang himself." He said it was for the people, but he wasn't fooled. He'd seen that trick before, where the helpers push everyone into building things that only feed their own pockets. But he told everyone, "Don't worry, I'll pay your wages and I won't take a cent in taxes." And then it got worse. He even said he was building houses for them and letting them live there for free while paying them anyway. Smirnov just stared, totally blown away. "Wait, are you serious or is this some kind of joke?" Hiro cracked a joke and told Smirnov the pay only ran during construction, and even then it was barely around 20 silver coins, so Smirnov snapped, "What the hell are you even trying to pull?" A hero lays it out plain. Public works chase 3 big targets: boost industry, crank up the quality of life, and keep the land standing strong. Because this land is still untouched and fully self-reliant, they've got to sink money into it and build the backbone, starting with public works that lay the foundation for real industry. Smirnov can't deny it's possible, but come on, how is this any different from a domain? You can't run a domain without tax money, so tell me how he plans to fund taxes just by throwing up houses. That's exactly why boosting quality of life matters. When daily life gets better, people work smarter and produce more, and the crops grown here are shipped worldwide through trading companies. And once those companies rake in profits, the government scoops up the tax cash, then uses it to bankroll even more projects. Jack couldn't believe it. He was blown away by the hero's plan to spark an economy out of land that had nothing. And honestly, he just learned something huge today. But this is only the starting line. Next, they'll push resources out fast, and the real mission right now is to lock down and steady their economy. Then comes the real problem, manpower. At this pace, it's only a matter of time before everything crumbles, but the hero just told him to chill because they've already got it handled. The War Cat Ear Tribe kids are the ones who'll be sent to work. A villager snapped, asking if the hero went to the Beastkin village to buy slaves, but he shot it down fast, swearing it wasn't that because these kids truly have no parents and no homes. The other day, Amelia absolutely crushed the martial arts tournament, and because of it, the territory got permission to put these kids to work, trading that labor for their education and care. They're allies with the Warkadir tribe, so there's no boss and subordinate nonsense between them, just teamwork. For now, they'll camp out at the estate, and after that, his next big plan is to commission new dormitories and build a school. The villager folded his arms and nodded, so yeah, he basically got what the hero wanted. But with 0 kids around their village, the whole thing didn't feel like it would go off without a hitch. Even with that tiny wobble of doubt in their hearts, they still pulled the children in with open arms. So he told them to call him Dad and Mom too, because in their hearts they treat those kids like their own. Amelia never thought getting tangled up with humans could make her feel this alive, and that's exactly the circle of happiness the hero was talking about. While she's soaking it in, the cover of the hero's book flips to a new look, flashing that he just scored another point. Looks like this one counts as a good deed too. Now he's gotta repay the happiness he's been handed, for real. Alright, now he's about to blast his divine revelation into the world for everyone to witness. When you do a good deed, divine revelation pours out scriptures from the gods, but what you actually get is pure luck. Then he slammed the divine revelation into action and hit the lottery of divine scriptures. He snagged the rare grade, the scripture of Dionysus, the god who rules intoxication. A mysterious bag of seeds materialized right inside his book. Turns out it's a plant he called it the breath of bounty and frenzy. That sounds downright ominous, like it could be poison. If they hid it in the territory, it could trigger some nasty accident, so why risk it? Toss it straight into the fireplace and be done. But the villagers slammed the brakes on him. That seed he was about to fling? Turns out it's from a grape strain that vanished from the world, and yeah, it's the absolute top-shelf premium kind. Normally, grapes need a decade plus before they're ready to harvest, but this special variety, you can pick them in just 3 years. They even swear there's a myth where its flavor was so divine that the gods snatched it straight from the mortal world to brew their wine. If these grapes are truly that legendary, then maybe they can be turned into a top-tier specialty product that puts their whole domain on the map. Amelia couldn't shake the fear that if a dead grape suddenly showed up on the market, everyone would start smelling something fishy. Jack, the great merchant, finally snapped into action. He'd found a solution. If they just claim it came from that vile wood, they could spin a dozen believable stories on the spot. Scraping by on crumbs from some ancient dragon? That's not a great look for a hero, and it sure doesn't pay the bills, so Amelia's got a plan. Turn these grapes into wine, because right now it's the War Cat Ear Tribe kids' moment to shine. Making sake was a woman's duty, so they figured they'd hand it off. Smirnoff went along with that plan. He never buys into superstitions, but there's one legend that chills him. If anyone who isn't a pure maiden bruises the sake, the gods will snap in fury, and the entire batch will rot. People swear these grapes are sacred to the gods, so don't mess around. Honor the tradition seriously. Hero agreed too, because those seeds were gifts from the gods, and if they're going to brew like the legend demands, they'd better trust Amelia and the rest. But above all, the regular farming and land work. They'll have to baby the grapevines too, and then turn it all into wine. After all the hell they went through to secure those farmlands, they're still about to get hit with a brutal shortage. The hero had to stop and think it through, because when it comes to personnel decisions, rushing has never once ended well. If they start recruiting in the open, you never know who could sneak in, so if they're bringing in settlers, they'd better have real safeguards in place. Even if they hire artisans, they're handing over an extinct variety to strangers. And there's zero promise those secrets won't slip before it ever reaches the market. So maybe he should just take over the farming and brewing himself, but is that even doable? In his old life, he carried the whole world, work, house chores, even taking care of his little sister. By himself, no breaks, no choice, just gotta do it, day after day, and if he squeezes a little harder now, he might finally help with everything. Like she could read his thoughts, Amelia snapped to attention right away. insisting there was no way he could carry an entire territory on his own. So he needs to put his trust in them. Just a second ago he was already plotting to take it all on again, right? And Hiro let out this awkward laugh like she totally knew he couldn't fool her. He's praying they'll spot some folks in town, people ready to help out, team up and pull together, because part of him's still worried just a little. Amelia though, she's certain everything's gonna be fine. Yeah, his circle of happiness talk, it's already leaking into the world, which is why she's certain good, wonderful people will find their way to that vile wood. They say happiness doesn't just happen, it pulls more happiness right toward you. At the same time, George and they finally clawed their way into the hero's territory, then slammed right into an ancient dragon's barrier. One of his men snapped, "What do we do now?" and begged to swing back into Rothwell territory to craft a new plan, but no way in hell they were going anywhere near that. As soon as he heard Joel plus Amira and Caro calling out and demanding to know who he was, he snapped around and faced them. That ancient dragon warned them, if you can't squeeze through the barrier, it means you're a bad soul, so watch your steps, and right now it's all about Rothwell. When George heard about the dragon, the rumors snapped into place. He instantly flipped his whole attitude and told Joel, "You've got it completely wrong." He put on a sad act and swore he'd heard there was a village nearby, so they bolted from Rothwell and dragged themselves all the way here. So he leaned in and demanded she tell Hiro this. People desperate for help had already gathered right here. Joel bolted straight back to the mansion and burst to her papa's side, yelling that trouble was breaking out right now, because a bunch of smelly people had already shown up. As soon as they arrive, George blurs out an apology for barging in and causing a disturbance, because they'd heard about the savior and bolted here, desperate for rescue. But a brutal wall slammed their path shut, leaving them totally stuck, until they crossed paths with a girl and begged her to carry a message to the savior. Joel said it reeked so bad that it made him wonder what on earth was going on there. Then he remembered the guy's words and realized the common folk had all gathered. The hero couldn't shake the feeling they were refugees from somewhere, but Smirnov snapped, "Nope, look at this," and pointed out they were dressed in a well-made canopy. George demands an answer from the savior. No. You know the sword saint, can Smirnov really let them in? Smirnov wasn't some big shot at all. If they wanted something, they had to go through this guy, because Hiro just scratched the back of his head and told them, "Yeah, I'm the lord around here." George's eyes widened. This wasn't just any kid, it was the exiled child, and this village was real, the one everyone whispered about, guarded by dragons. He heard the sword saint tossed his noble name aside and vanished from town, but I swear, I never pictured him landing in a place like this. In that outfit, it's full-on Warcat ear tribe vibes plus a bunch of lizard men tagged right along. He doesn't spot a single dragon, yet this massive military force shows up out of nowhere. So first he has to invent a solid, believable excuse to step in peacefully. The hero swept them to the mansion so they could finally talk, but Smirnov yanked him back. If you let just anyone stroll in that easily, the barrier is basically pointless. Those guys look sharp, sure, but nobody knows who they really are, and what if they're bandits or straight-up criminals? The hero's convinced they're just like Smirnov. Them sprinting all the way here proves just how desperate they are, and they refuse to leave people like that behind. That kind of kindness is going to come back and burn him one day, like the universe's hitting play on cue. George's man snatches Amelie right out of the chaos and drags her away, and then came the ancient dragon, and he was actually grateful to that useless lord because it meant he could finally pull off his objective. He ordered everyone to dig in and hold their ground, because if they so much as twitched at the wrong time, he wouldn't promise a thing for their comrade's life. Their mission is crystal clear. They're doing all of this to save the nation and protect its future. A royal decree has come for Hiro right now, and the second he receives it, he's charging straight for the battlefield to fight with their military. George has no clue what the hero's father is cooking up, but he'd better get the message fast. The hero draws a hard line. His mission is to protect this territory, not start a war. So if he won't bend, these people will keep paying the price until he finally gives in. If he didn't want them to use force, he had no choice. He had to obey the decree. The hero made it crystal clear, if they swing first, they're the ones who'll pay the price, because he's trying to shut down needless fighting, not start it. One of the minions couldn't stand his arrogance, snapped to make him regret it, but when Amelia clamped onto his arm, he froze and trembled. He swung his arm and slammed him hard into the ground. She knew this whole scheme was built to trick Hiro from day one, and she'll never forgive them for exploiting people's kindness like that. The chubby guy swung at her, but she snapped low and dodged his punch right before it could land. Before his plan snapped shut and trapped his feet in the. Then he yanked the string upward, and the next second, he was scrambling off balance and falling fast. If he fights back, he won't get away safe. He'll pay with his life. Cairo grabbed her mid-step and told her straight up, fighting won't fix a thing. Amelia shot out an apology right before she let that fatty go. Then a sneaky minion lunged in from behind for a surprise attack. Luckily, Jewel snapped up and sent a brutal flying kick straight into his face. While the tiny dragon keeps firing questions, demanding to know why they're doing all of this. Batty charges in to attack her but Hiro snaps into action, darting forward to shield her. The fat man couldn't believe it. His iron-fisted strike got slammed aside and an arrow ripped in from far off. But George flipped it away with zero trouble. He spots the archer perched above the mansion, and his eyes lock on them like a warning. He fires off a warning to his crew, saying only someone truly deadly can land shots from that far, and then he tells them to steady their nerves. Up in the branches, Garius crouched in the shadows, then froze as George spotted him. That low-ranked noble snapped orders from the mansion, shouting for everyone to keep their guard up, and for the ones who could fight to form up in ranked lines. The hero snapped that this whole fight is pointless and pushed everyone to settle it the hard way, talk it out. George snapped back, if that's what you really believe, then follow the decree unless you're itching to die here. And the ancient dragon finally rumbled, demanding, so tell me, which fool are you? He knows talking it out could fix this, but they refuse to calm down until fists fly. Because in their eyes, humans are just barbarians, and the guy who's got him by the mouth just silenced him and called him a lizard man. Then he blurted to Boss George, what's going on? They followed along because George promised they could grab dragon materials, yet all they see here are lizards. So tell me, is this some kind of joke? Now the ancient dragon realizes the real prize isn't gold. It's the dragon clan's power, but they picked the wrong way to go after it. Because the fist they just threw up is aimed at the Golden Hope, the kid who's destined to one day rule the dragon clan. Lord Gol has handed him the role of educator and the heavy duty of guarding this land, the Silver Wing. The moment the intruder laid eyes on the ancient dragon, their bodies seized up in stunned terror. He stared into the shadows, wondering if the legendary silver dragon had finally revealed itself. The ancient dragon stared them down, snarling that their disrespect to the divine dragon lord would be paid in blood. Sure, even if their souls vanished from this world's rules, they wouldn't dare complain, right? Then it sucked in power through its mouth and he snapped a shot at the idiots, but it landed like nothing, just a nasty hangover breath. Watching these people crumple to the ground, and with that he scoffed like it was nothing. That stench is brutal, right? And you're telling me the guy behind it is the ancient dragon. The ancient dragon told him to bring these people out while the hero still could, so they'd never get back in again, and the boy nodded, ready to do exactly that. And after his father snapped down an order, he found out Oliver was pulling strings. He wanted him right there in the dragon clan. At this pace, the Rothwell territory is heading straight for a warstorm in just 6 months. Then trade chaos and refugee crises will come roaring back. But there's no way to finish that territory in just 6 months, so Smirnoff pushed him to think, go to his father, forget it. Knowing Hero's stubborn habits, Smirnoff made it clear stressing over it is pointless. After everything that went down today, he finally gets it. This master's power isn't small, it's bottomless. But he didn't hate the way Hiro thinks one bit. They say you can't fix a fool until they're gone, but the truth is, in this story there are way too many people who'd be left in real trouble if he ever died. Alright, he'll stand between Master Hiro and danger no matter what, but Hiro has to defend this territory too, no excuses. He's got no clue how to guard this place, but Hiro does, and if it comes down to it, he'll tell Smirnoff whatever it takes. He slipped an arm around his shoulder and told him straight up, I'm counting on you. In the Lord's office inside Vilewood territory, Hiro sighs. Once he realized these papers won't budge, he knew, yep, it's another all-nighter for him tonight. Ever since he started commissioning public works 2 months ago, he's been buried neck-deep in paperwork. Administration, construction material orders, commission forms, building management docs, business reports, income and expense settlements, and an endless stack of request forms. He remembered how his father could squeeze in time to breathe through all that paperwork, but Hiro couldn't even steal a single hour of sleep. He refuses to sink into doubt, because Smirnoff is counting on him and he can't afford to fall. Amelia bursts in and demands his time. That earlier shipment from the trading company finally rolled in sugar was packed tight with seashells, and it made her wonder if Hiro had any clue about what was going on. Yep, he's the guy who just ordered the seashells. He hated wasting paper and parchment on lessons, so he cooked up writing tools instead. And since the farmland grows crops at lightning speed, he figured those tools would be needed there too. When the time finally hits, he'll break it all down in full detail. Then again, he didn't even ask for sugar. She went and did it, then straight up asked for those cookies to be made. Heard the hero light up. He praised her hard for those amazing sweets she'd made. She quickly explained it. Every pretty one came straight from the teacher's oven. She was still figuring it all out, and her own baking looked totally different. In her left hand, she clutched a Smirnoff, while her right hand held her own. They might not look pretty, but she swears the flavor hits like a knockout. The hero took one bite and he just nodded. Whatever shape they come in, they're absolutely delicious. Amelia inched closer, reaching to pull the scraps from his mouth. And then he clocked it. Those under-eye bags looked straight out of a dead man's grave, so yeah. Did he really burn the whole night pulling another all-nighter? Sweet treats can ease fatigue, so he should take real breaks and rest properly every now and then. She leans into him, and just like that, he finally exhales, his worries melting away. Smirnoff barged into the room without knocking, ready to spill whatever secret he had. He came to a jolt when he saw just how close their heads were. They yanked away from each other in a blur, and he snatched and embarrassingly demolished the cookies before even telling Smirnoff they were delicious. And when he finally said it, Smirnoff lit up with pure joy. He snapped the message back to the master, warning him the farmers were talking about the field, and since he knew zero about farming, he couldn't help but wonder if Master Hiro would actually listen to them. With Hiro swamped and unable to inspect them lately, he bursts out, eager to finally check what's going on. As he strode through the village, he flashed a warm smile and greeted every villager. When you look at it like that, the population's blown up for real. Because those 20 refugees showed up right after the North got dragged into the war, and the guy was honestly just relieved they made it here. In the northern village, forestry is booming and land is being carved out left and right. Usable ground has shot up dramatically. Since they're sitting on a pile of thin timber, they finally snagged enough supplies to work around the territory, and even built a school with it. The farmland sprawled bigger and bigger, so the harvest shot up, and for the last 2 months they've been raking in profit. He just couldn't stop hoping even more people would show up. But he already sensed it. This place never gives you an easy run because trouble lives here like it owns the land. He wants to take in as many war refugees and settlement applicants as he can. Because if it happens, the city's tax money climbs, even while his father's own tax revenue shrinks. If Oliver ever finds out, he's going to hit the roof, especially with that royal decree hanging over everything, because in the worst case, this whole territory gets handed straight back to his father. Suddenly Smirnov grabbed him, hoisted him up and warned him he was seconds away from dropping straight into the manure pit. He couldn't help but wonder, was the master slipping into senility because he never slept properly? The hero snapped out of his daze, apologized for getting lost in his thoughts, and he froze in disbelief. Those fields were already bearing fruit, even though it usually takes 3 long years before you can harvest. The trees shot up like they'd been fueled by lightning and started fruiting on the spot. Flowers had bloomed just 2 weeks earlier, so they tore the buds off to prune them. Yesterday, they yanked out the weak plants, and this morning, boom, the fruit was already ripe and ready. Amelia swore it was the divine revelation doing its thing, but Hiro shrugged and figured the effect was only about 7 times faster, so the grape harvest should be done in just half a year. Sure, he can stare at those other crops all he wants, but you can't blame that speed on just one thing. He sees corn and soybeans get harvested once a week, while wheat throws up heads in only 2. To seal this lightning-fast surge, both heroes dropped into a seat, ready to dig in and check everything. He checks the divine revelation and his world shifts. And the moment it hit him, he realized it was 14 times worse. The farmer thrust a barrel of grapes at him, fresh off the thinning they'd done yesterday. And when the hero finally tore it open, he was stunned. Somehow it turned into wine in just a single day, and normally fermentation takes about a week. So the farmer figures the divine magic is hitting him again. Now Amelia was blown away by that divine revelation, because it led them straight to results this incredible. But Hiro made it crystal clear, this wasn't just the divine revelation's win. This was the whole village's big win. Crops here shoot up fast and the harvest comes overflowing, yet the farmers never let up. The ancient dragon and the others launch into the hunt so nobody goes hungry and everyone can get back to work, while Amelia steps in as the mediator, letting the kittens study and work with peace of mind. Smirnoff runs daily security patrols, and because of it, fights never break out in the territory, so everyone can breathe easy and live in peace. But anyone who steps into this territory never slows down, and if he overdoes it, everyone else's load only gets heavier. So Hiro decides today and tomorrow are official holidays. They'll all celebrate the harvest together. Then the ancient dragon drops out of the sky, roars to Hiro that what they've caught today will be the star of the feast. He yanked the main dishes down hard, and when they hit the ground, a brutal cloud of dust exploded everywhere, unraveling the secret of the catoblepis. That thing carries the evil eye of death and gets tagged as a national disaster-level monster. So Smirnoff immediately screamed at everyone to take cover. The ancient dragon leaned in and told them, "Relax, just breathe." Because Joel had already smashed the evil eye to pieces, the hero blasted the dragon with a scorching scald, telling him the catoblep's evil eye means instant death the moment it hits your vision. So Joel knew better than to hunt it. When they were told to stop and really examine the evil eye's power, Cairo suddenly realizes this thing obliterates every human the moment they slip into its line of sight. The dragon let out a cruel laugh and demanded, "So you finally get it? If you trace it back, it's a curse, undead riding on humans. And to the dragon clan, a catoblepis isn't some horror at all, it's just a cow. And get this cow is crazy rare. Even for dragons, they only get one bite of its meat every few decades." Since the ancient dragon already knew the land where they planned to take down the catoblepis, the hero's stomach twisted as he couldn't shake the fear that this place might turn into the start of a whole new disaster. The dragon leaned in and promised him everything would be fine, because that place had no trouble and no meat to tempt anything. They hit the catoblepis right where it mattered most, the great tomb of Ark. Inside the castle, a man dropped to one knee and swore that the catoblepis guarding the gate had been cut down. The throne sitter snaps, seething that anyone who dares to ransack his home is beyond forgiveness. He hears the northern demon leader is tied up prepping for war. So tell me who's actually behind this. The moment he spotted that massive crack tearing through the ground, he instantly knew exactly who did it, and he still couldn't shake that bad habit feeling. Then he spots the blood trail cutting straight into the vilewood forest, so it hits him, that bastard's hideout is right there. He mocked the ancient dragon as some tiny lizard and swore his undead army would rip its living nails clean off. Meanwhile, these crews they stumbled into the undead and couldn't stop wondering why horrors like that existed here. Then their leader snapped that the mages had to raise a barrier and guard the wagons. The undead's leader grabbed some trash humans and interrogated them about the dragon's hideout. These people were clueless about where they even were, and all they'd heard were wild rumors about a village guarded by dragons, until that man flicked his finger to reveal it. Now that he finally knew where the dragons were hiding, he murmured that he was going to savor every second of it. Rothwell territory, right on the southern road that cuts straight through the vilewood forest. The merchant swallowed his pride and apologized to the master for dragging him out here in person. Caravans keep vanishing one after another across this territory, and nobody knows what's taking them. This is the spot where the final message came in, from the caravan that was meant to haul supplies to the Warketi tribe. The hero squints into the distance, no station in sight, and can't shake the question, how on earth are they even communicating? Jack told us every trading caravan had to be packed with magic crystals, and when the crew talked, the comms magic pinpointed the exact transmission location in real time. Jack heard it again, caravans disappearing here, losing all contact, so he figured there had to be an escape route for defectors, but this time they vanished even with armed escorts. To hunt for clues that they'll unleash Caro to hunt the scent, because once she's in hide-and-seek mode, she spots everyone fast and even tracks down lost things like it's nothing. Cerberus has noses way sharper than any ordinary magic wolf, and they can pick out scents from months ago. Then, with the right training, they can even sniff out poisons and diseases. After snatching a personal item from someone in the caravan, Hiro had Kiro sniff it, ordered her to track it down, and dangled a sweet reward, catablip a steak. Hiro's nose twitches, he suddenly catches a bad smell in they. Right before he dives into the search, Joel whipped his head around and instantly got the creeps in that forest like something was watching. Then she asked her papa if a ghost would show up, and Jack burst out laughing because with this group it's the ghosts who should be scared. But he got exactly what she meant. Something about this place felt smothered in gloom, like a creepy chill was hanging in the air. This kind of place is made for vanishing, exactly what the bandits needed for their perfect hideout. But that ancient dragon's barrier made it seem impossible. Until the ancient dragon stepped in and made him realize it wasn't the whole story. The barrier he forged snubs anyone he doesn't recognize as a hero, and anyone with evil in their hearts. But once he agrees to let refugees into the territory, that no outsiders rule he'd built begins to collapse. When everything falls apart, the effect vanishes, so now anyone who doesn't have evil intentions toward the hero can step right in. To make it through this forest, they'd need real skill, so it wouldn't be shocking if they hauled off whole caravans and then they demanded to know the caravan size. Jack replied, "We've got 1 wagon, 2 merchants inside, and 3 guards on the road, 2 swordsmen and a mage. All of them are rank adventurers, handpicked and commissioned by the Royal Capital's Guild." Hiro couldn't wrap his head around it. Why were the escorts A rank when the escort level is supposed to track higher than the cargo's worth? For household goods, it should have been S rank, easy, but this time was different. Something big was coming. On top of the usual essentials, this shipment had one wild surprise: Hiro's very own wine heading straight to him. That A-rank crew could sign confidentiality contracts, period, and Hiro was dead sure the escorts wouldn't touch the cargo, so he kept staring at this road, wondering where they were taking it. This road stretches straight to the holy Sasaka Duchy. Beyond here, just the duchy and the great tomb of Ark, and if that's the case, then we're in real trouble. Because the hero's theories whispered that they might have been dragged off as prisoners of the holy Sisika, and the dragon couldn't help but freeze, demanding to know what that even meant. If the war was raging up in the northern lands, then why in the world would the south bother taking prisoners? Ever since ancient times, Asgard, the holy Sisikadachi, and the northern demon kingdom have been clashing in non-stop territorial wars, until a non-aggression pact from the papal court keeps the whole powder keg from exploding. Once that balance snaps and the north charges in, the Sasaka Duchy is going to feel that crushing gap widen fast, so if they have to strike first, where do you think the Sasaka Duchy invades? This is the boundary of all boundaries, the contact point with Asgard's kingdom, right at the edge of the demonic Great Forest, Vilewood. If they could track it down, they'd finally have proof. But the clues are so few they can barely piece anything together. Luckily, Karo spots something right away: the missing caravan wagon. The cargo gets left behind, no blood, no broken bodies, no sign of a single fight, and it's like the whole crew just vanished into thin air. When someone miles away suddenly starts closing the distance. As they stared at the skeleton's jewel trapped in the dark, Joel immediately wrapped his arms around her papa right as panic hit, sure they were ghosts. When one of the skeletons burst forward and charged at them, Kara's sprint to the rescue began right then, pinning him hard to the ground. Trapped on all sides, the dragon snapped his tongue in, and with zero choice left, he reluctantly snapped into his other form. And then she slices through the skeletons with deadly ease. He waited there, hanging on every word from the young master. He watched the undead spring back to life so fast and figured their master had to be insanely skilled. With a physical hit doing nothing, he clenched his resolve and prepared to unleash the dragon's breath. But the hero slammed the brakes, stopping him cold the moment he spotted the trading company's magic crystal. And right then he was sure, those undead came straight from the caravan. From afar, a chilling skeleton hissed at the silver dragon, "Take the hit for tearing apart the king's resting place." The hero couldn't shake the thought, was that undead necromancer really the one causing all this? Without a single word, the ancient dragon tore open his power and slipped back into his true form, then snapped, "Get on my back." He shot up into the sky, ready to throw up a barrier and scorch the curse away, because the only way to free these undead is to destroy it. Because his actions brought them pain, he'll pay for it by mourning them with the deepest respect. He exhaled dragon fire, like a requiem roaring out of his lungs. Then he swung in and struck the caravan people right on the spot, those guys even thanked him afterward. He admitted that the spot that's where he captured the catablipas inside the great tomb of Ark, and once the necromancer clocked that it was his fault, the necromancer hunted him down. This had to be the doing of the mastermind behind it all. Sure, he'd crossed paths with this man before, but he never once expected that necromancer would waltz right into human settlements. With night closing in fast, Hiro snapped that he needed to rush back to their territory, and he could only hope everyone was safe. Meanwhile, the undead crowd around Hiro's mansion, looming outside the gates like they own the night. Amelia shoves the kids into hiding, determined to keep them safe. She sprang to her feet, snapped orders to the villager to lock the gate, barricaded the door from the inside, and promised they wouldn't fall. Then outside, she tore into the undead. Smirnov rips through the crowd and tells everyone to get roaring, because they're the final wall standing between the enemy and the rest. Because their enemy was undead, they only had to survive the night, outlast it, and dawn would crown their victory. Amelia begged Alexia to fix the barrier, but Alexia flat out said it couldn't be done. That formula's way above her head, and the breach wasn't triggered by magic either, so something else is jamming the whole thing. Right now, she's slammed barrier magic over the broken area to protect it. But if they charge through, she's not sure she can stop them. They just couldn't figure out who that man was, someone who could shatter the ancient dragon's barrier and command an army this massive all by himself. The necromancer sits down on a skeleton like it's his throne. And with every chilling command, more undead poured in. Smirnov's fear spiked, because with numbers like that, they couldn't possibly last till morning. And then the ancient dragon finally crashed onto the scene, crushing the undead before they could rise again. When they demanded to know, "Is everyone okay?" Smirnov thanked him through clenched relief, then rushed to report the truth. Every citizen had been packed into the mansion, and not a single person was hurt. Even after the undead shattered the barrier, Alexia refused to fall. She kept them at bay, fighting with everything she had. An ancient dragon slammed into Arkard, the undead king, and the air turned to dread, and grilled him, asking if he was truly sick of playing with corpses. Arkard leaned in and told the lizard, "It's been ages," then demanded to know if Catablipas is the human's tribute. Hold on, Hiro knew Arkard isn't just a hero, he's the myth-born progenitor vampire. Are they really squaring off against the deadliest necromancer in history, right now? And ever since that ancient dragon lit the fuse, he promised Hiro he'd handle it solo. But if they lock in for a real fight, damage is unavoidable. So he throws out his plan. He'll ring the mansion with his own treasure vault, using the Dragon Clan's deadliest barrier, something you can unleash only once in a lifetime, but once it's set, it shields the place from every disaster and every attack. He clashed with Arkard over and over, and it all culminated in his battle record is nothing but losses. Yet with Hiro's help, he's grown stronger, and for the first time, he doesn't feel like he'll lose to him. Now the fight is about to kick off, and everyone gets to stare from the mansion as his heroic figure takes center stage. But before anything else, he slammed the dragon's treasure vault into action, sealing the mansion behind unstoppable protection. Hurls an armored punch from afar, closing the gap in a flash. Realizes that shattering this Dragon Clan's supreme barrier technique is going to be a brutal headache. The dragon clenched his fist and gathered a storm of power in his hand. And before he unleashed the dragon, it burst, tearing through everything in its path like it's got a personal vendetta. They thought the whole nightmare was finally over, until it was. Arkard called out from far away, his voice cutting through the distance. He couldn't even crack this spell formula with his attack, and now he's wondering, did he really get stronger at all? With necromancy formula number 2, Arked slammed a corpse wall into place, and the real danger was in his sights. The dragon lunged to strike from the shadows, trying to catch everyone off guard. He threw it at him, but he slipped out of the way like it was nothing. The dragon burst back in, ready to strike again, but he snapped his guard up just in time and blocked it. It snaps away in a flash, throwing its body down to slip under the kick. The ancient dragon meant well, but his plan was built on thin thinking. With that move, Arkard snaps into a bone strike counter, driving impact straight into him. Arkard clutched necromancy formula number 4, corpse spear, then taunted the dragon, sneering that the ground fits him better than the endless sky. A skeleton swarm closed in on the dragon from every angle. Then he tore right through them by transforming in an instant. Arkard stayed eerily calm as he bombarded the dragon with bones, telling him flat out that it was over. That ancient dragon got sealed shut with the necromancy formula 666, along with a spear burial ritual, and as Arkard put it, its mind is barely there, like the thoughts just don't go deep. He went straight to that vampire and told it to stop bullying her grandpa. Then the dragon grabbed GL's attention, warning her the danger was real, and vowed that even if it cost his life, he'd still stand between this land and disaster. The hero cut in mid-sentence and demanded, "What are you even talking about?" And they slammed their claim down like, "This is our territory and nobody else moves in." So they all stood shoulder to shoulder and swore they'd defend it as one. Then he barked orders to everyone, "Get to your spots and get ready to fight." He's going to seize control of everyone and trigger his divine revelation. After unleashing the divine revelation, they could feel raw power blasting through their veins like it was about to burst out of them. But Archer doesn't believe they can survive his army's assault with only that much power. The hero lives by that savage human saying, "The best defense is offense," and he's ready to prove it. But Arkard still refused to believe mere humans could ever stand against his army's power. Alexia unleashed the elven race's full blast, maximum firepower like a roaring inferno. But Arkard was 100% sure she couldn't break through his shield as soon as she let it go. But Arkard couldn't even process it. His defensive magic got ripped apart in an instant. Now it's time to blast into action and rescue the ancient dragon before it's too late. The ancient dragon tore through its own power and snapped back into a human. After they got yanked to safety, Hiro barked orders and shoved the non-combatants toward the mansion to evacuate. He spun toward the dragon and demanded, "Are you okay?" And the dragon immediately apologized for slipping up and dropping his guard. Arkard couldn't believe a lowly human tricked him, so he demanded to know why the hero went so far just to shield a tiny lizard. The ancient dragon is basically his prized sidekick and the territory's food procurement officer, so as the lord, he'd never betray his comrades and sell them out. Then it looks like Arkard's going to have to seize the ancient dragon with sheer force, yet Hero won't back down and he'll fight tooth and nail to keep Arkard safe. Neither side blinks, silence crashes down on them both. Hanging back, he couldn't stop counting down the seconds until each one finally struck. Arkard keeps that boy's words close, asterisk the offense is the best defense asterisk, then leans in and tells him the truth. This land was once crushed by humans, soaked in blood and cursed from that day on. A mountain of sheer numbers will smash through their defenses, and just like that, he ordered his undead to trample the enemy. Hero's sideforms climbed the ranks. Locked in, he was determined to corner them for good. The arrow shot up into the sky, slicing through the air like a promise, and slammed their attacks right into the enemy's ranks. But the enemy's onslaught won't slow down for even a second. He forced himself to stay calm because he knew one wrong move, and the timing would all fall apart. Defense hits when you're outnumbered, and attack crashes in when you've got overwhelming force. The secret moves of defense are buried beneath the 9 earths, while the deadly techniques of attack soar above the 9 heavens, so they endure, strike back, and walk right into total victory. Under Alexia's command, she slammed the tornado arrow to life, bursting into action to tear the enemies apart. As they thought they'd finally hit the jackpot, a sudden attack was bearing down on her like a runaway train. But then, without a second to lose, he shoved her out of the way. As he realized, there were still more enemies lurking just out of sight. At this pace, the front lines are about to crumble, and fast. That necromancer's power spikes with the magic they had in life, so with elven magical power behind him, he's sure Alexia can't overpower them. She slammed down her spell and wiped the enemy's attack clean out of the air. And the heroes, still under the command, came charging in. And Amelia unleashed her super divine power, blasting straight into the scene with unstoppable force, unleashing a ruthless barrage of heavy arrows one after another, until the air itself feels like it's cracking. She swung and smashed into tons of them. But one enemy slipped right past the village, so she couldn't finish him off. If this keeps up, they'll get worn down and crushed, unless they hold their line tight, and Hero's sure they'll make it. As Smirnoff's crew braces for brutal close-quarters combat, the archers rain support down on the vanguard, while Alexia steps in to unleash the magical response. The undead come charging at them, and they slam into place with tree trunks to stop the onslaught. Smirnoff's crew slams down the brakes and stops them from pushing any farther. So now all they have to do is hit the targets that slip through. Archer warned them their tactics would only work when the enemy was human, because against his troops they'd be totally useless. The undead crawled deeper underground, inch by inch, as if the earth itself couldn't stop them, and snagged every single one of them. Checkmate. Now what's Hero gonna do next? Just as Hero hoped for, if the front lines get pinned, Arkard will charge in to crush the rear guard. He just leans in and listens as the dead whisper straight into his ear. He can only summon so many corpses at once, and the moment they rot away, it's done. No second chance. The undead lost his taste for this life and desperately clawed for freedom. He just wanted out. Arkard's jaw dropped. Multiple divine revelations were pouring out of him. But with all the corpses buried across this land, his army's edge wasn't just strong, it was unstoppable. The hero knew trying to outmatch the undead army head-on was impossible, so they joined forces and slammed out the attack with everyone's full power. Everything so far was just set up. Now they're finally ready to unleash their full firepower, and the real battle kicks off right here. As GOL's power hit full charge, that ancient dragon couldn't do miracles, but it could still pull off at least one deadly breath. This is it. Right now they're charging straight into Operation Dragon's Roar. When the dragon ripped into the sky, bursting upward in a roar, Arkard spotted the barrel and his mind immediately raced. What was it for? He knew it was the human's idea and won. They're staring at it thinking, are you about to spill oil and torch it with a breath, or are you just a gunpowder barrel waiting to blow and crank the whole thing to maximum power? The dragon snarls, drops it to the ground, and then he blasts it apart with a vicious burst of fire breath. Boom. Archer gave their idea a big thumbs up, then quickly made it clear it didn't land on him. He stared in disbelief at a massive crater, like the world had just been torn open. The hero snapped orders to the rear guard, fight, then slip them through the barrier, because they'll be stalling this way until morning. Then he leaned in and told the vampire, that stuff you're using, there's no magic in it. But the magnesium was meant to be spread across the farmland, and once it gets burned, that stuff explodes into an insanely blinding flash of light. Archard stared in disbelief as this kid transformed farm tools into deadly weapons, and wondered how a child even knew that kind of thing. He's seen it before, someone just like him, armed with knowledge you can't even imagine and leadership so sharp it shames seasoned veterans. To finally learn the truth about who he really was, he used his power to read him like a book. After everything finally clicked, he understood right then and there that divine favor could turn him into a runaway force, one that, left alone, would twist the world's rules until everything breaks. Someone needs to erase you from this world. Smirnoff leans in and tells his master, get inside, evacuate now. But Arkard didn't hesitate. He shot forward and crashed straight into the attack. Smirnoff slams A, and he finally clocks it. This legendary necromancer didn't. He didn't train in martial arts. And at that moment, even Smirnoff starts acting up, like he's impossible to keep under control. Arkard gave a nod to his sword skills but made it brutally clear he wasn't the one to worry about. Still, Smirnoff's message lands like a punch. That was his whole job, protect the master at any cost. Unleashes brutal attacks with court-style swordsmanship. The vampire snaps up the attack with zero effort and blocks it clean. Smirnoff strikes again, unleashing the demon eagle slash like a thunderbolt. But his sword just can't break through these rock-solid shields. With awkward provocative jabs, Mianov kept hammering his target with relentless attacks. The ancient dragon slammed both feet into the earth, unleashing a dragon quake that shook everything. Like Arkard got shoved back a step. He looked around and realized he'd been baited the whole time. If he backs off, Hero's crew goes full siege. If he doesn't, they swing in on better ground, and even if they can't win, they'll duck into the barrier, breathe, and map out their next move. The vampire smirked and bragged about how smart he was, then lunged toward awakening every undead thing trapped in that place. But Hero wouldn't let him. Jewel snapped a fire blast into the sky, and the flames shot up before he slammed it into the ground. That gold dragon vein glow erupted, then the earth shook. He drove a massive crack into the ground, ripping the vampire's footing right out from under him. They closed in on him from all sides, like the walls were moving. But Arkard snapped his fingers and summoned a swarm of skeletons to shield him from harm. Seeing it was finally the archer's turn, Arkard clenched his teeth and braced himself to take her hit. He swung back with confidence, then his blade sliced straight through his wall and the shock hit him like lightning. As he stared in shock, wondering how she had that kind of power, she flooded the arrow with wind magic, supercharging every hit. Now the ancient dragon is about to land its ultimate, gay-mending move. He slams the dragon protection into place, traps the vampire tight, and crushes the space around it so it can't twitch or move. Archer didn't just make a magical prison, he threw it up with his barrier technique and praised it like a masterpiece. And he finally swallowed his pride and admitted defeat. Hearing that the hero is throwing the vampire shrugged like it was all part of a great fight, and called it a good battle with a grin. He told the humans to throw a party, because they've finally earned the chance to crush a legend nobody has beaten since the age of the progenitor. So yeah, in that moment, Hero's crew will kick back with a slow, satisfying meal, and trade some real heart-to-heart conversation. He yanked the arrows away from Arkard and made it clear this is the end. No more cards to play, no more military muscle left, and honestly, Arkard's side brought this on themselves in the first place. If we can settle this by talking, he pushed, isn't that the better move? Arkard shot him a hard glare, demanding what kind of scheme he was cooking. That ancient dragonkin hero wasn't plotting a thing, he was a bottomless sweetheart who blurted the truth without thinking, even when it hurt. And yeah, that's exactly why everyone liked him. Don't tell me Arkard doesn't want to see it too, the paradise this fool is about to build. The vampire nodded, then slammed down his one condition. He wanted to drink that delicious. Let's down that wine one more time, together with his brand new crew. The hero ordered GL to dash over with the dishes and slam them onto the table. Joel snapped into action and marched up to the vampire, ready to hand over what he came for his offer, and threw out an apology for making everyone wait. Arkard leaned in and told her plain as day, he drinks only blood and alcohol. When they asked if he truly wouldn't touch that delicious food, his silence said it all. The vampire warned her, don't you repeat a word, and said he'd rip off her fingernails if she did. Irritation flared in her eyes as the adorable little girl spun to her papa and blurted that after busting her butt, all she got was a scolding. An ancient dragon snatched the umbrella from Smirnoff, stared at Arkard and barked, who do you think you are? Arkard knew this vampire had already beaten the sunlight years ago. So he snapped back, shutting the dragon down, then warned, mess with me again and I'll tear off your fingernails, the young dragon S2. An ancient dragon dared him to try, warning that if he did, the hero would snap in pure fury. So Lillian nodded along and said the hero is terrifying when that rage finally hits. But Hero swears Arkard felt way scarier than him when he snapped into rage. Hold up, why was this legendary great sage showing up here of all places? Lillian greeted him. She straightened up and marched over to introduce herself, and Smirnoff froze, stunned that the great sage was there and desperate to understand what connection he had to Hero. Lillian pulled Hiro into a hug, then admitted they were just acquaintances, though in reality she'd shared meals, slept side by side with him since he was little, and even bathed together all the time. That kind of closeness? Yeah, it's real. Amelia awkwardly squinted at the news, but Hiro shut it down hard, telling her not to fall for it. Because Lillian's a mage living in the mansion as their retainer, she even tutors Hiro and Marison. But then the real question hits, why did she come here in the first place? She was out there hunting for a patron, and when Hiro asked why she didn't try the Rothwell family, she snapped back that they were absolutely horrible. The trading company ordered her to explain the debt repayment, and the second they heard about the disinheritance, fury hit them, so they shoved her out of the mansion. Then she heard rumors in town that a village had sprung up in the Great Forest, and she couldn't help thinking, maybe that's it. Then she caught a mouth-watering scent in the air, and her stomach practically begged for a feast while she was still there. The vampire refused to share his alcohol, but the ancient dragon shot down her request for meat just as hard. But this master was on a whole other level. He invited his old teacher to sit with them for a meal and made sure he said they had more than enough ingredients. They dug into a roasted catoblepus, and the flavor hit like a full-on explosion. The vampire's face twisted into a scowl, snapping that they'd better stop mocking him, then daring them. Did they really want to watch him devour his own kin? The heroes pushed for it like, just try this. A weird, sudden sensation hit him out of nowhere, and stepped forward, ready to face the boy head-on. He slammed him into a hug and finally admitted, I'm beaten. He couldn't even process it. How could it taste this good? To thank him, he sank his teeth into his own arm. And the moment that blood hit the ground, bam, an explosion ripped through the air. He unleashed a brutal, choking fog thick enough to swallow the sky. That's the progenitor's curse. That curse is a barrier just like the one the dragon used. It drives back evil, but it also turns weak-hearted saints into its own kin by unleashing the power of darkness. The great sage stared at that outrageous, multi-layered barrier in disbelief. and it felt like he'd stumbled into a fairy tale world. A crazy rumor says gold and silver dragons blessed a miracle village ruled by a savior, and that even a sword saint lives there. But when she stared at the truth with her own eyes, she realized this rumor isn't just bigger, it's beyond the rumors. Rumor says the crew isn't just filling up, War Cat Ear tribe elites are joining, a Cerberus is lurking with them, elves are in the mix, and an undead king is showing up too. Now she finally gets the full picture of the Northern War, and she can't help but feel relieved that she chose to come inspect it in person. When she spilled the truth that Oliver had abandoned the Northern Fortress, Hiro snapped. Why would his father pull something this reckless? Lillian suspects it happened because the Demon Lord's army finally shoved into the Northern Front, like holding the line alone was never going to last forever, and it hit its breaking point. Mari's son apparently rode out to beg for reinforcements, but there's been zero word since, so Oliver pulled his troops back to nearby villages and regrouped before they could get picked off. Staring at the North's brutal mountain roads, Cairo can't stop thinking, if Oliver tried that, the people wouldn't stand a chance to escape. Once he clocked Oliver's real plan, he realized he was already too late. Lillian snapped it to him. Oliver was planning to throw the citizens in front like a living shield just so he could slip away. And if that worked, the Northern Territory was about to fall. The kingdom's shield, now failing even to guard his own turf, will have his name erased, and if everything goes sideways, they could strip his title too, but Hiro refuses to believe his father would let that happen. Then Lillian pulls back the curtain and drops Oliver's trump card. He set his sights on getting that territory back. With this kind of military muscle, he could storm back the north and even rip territory from the demon leader's forces. And honestly, with power like that, independence from the kingdom stops being a dream and starts looking inevitable. And he's probably telling himself he can just cast the hero out and call it a day, straight into the northern demon realm. Emilia makes it crystal clear this is hero territory. He saved her life, and even while he was fighting for his own, he still downed an elixir to help a beast folk. At first she thought what a foolish human, until she saw it, he treated everyone exactly the same. With the kindness he gave, everyone finally got to live in peace and joy, because this was the world he built, one sacrifice after another, right up to the end. So even when the kind-hearted hero promises he'll come back, they dig in and refuse, then the hero finally snaps, "I won't return." It's basically exile, but he accepts it anyway because he truly believed he could turn this land into his best territory. Right now, it's basically a Rothwell outpost, but he's already eyeing independence the moment the time is right, so losing this territory halfway through would be a total disaster. So he's aiming straight for the northern fortress, ready to push for ceasefire talks, and at this pace, he's sure it won't be long before the main Rothwell territory gets swallowed by this war. If that goes down, his father and the refugees will burst in at the same time, and he'll have to take them in on the spot. No bargaining, no chance to argue. The worst-case scenario, he makes the first move and shuts it down before it can even happen. Lillian turns to her and says she wants to hire her as her retainer. She wants to brag that she's a great sage, but right in front of this crowd, that confidence turns into a giant weakness. With her standing right there, Oliver can't muscle his way in or start throwing unreasonable demands. Hiro agreed immediately because she remembered this from every negotiation: whoever moves first gains the upper hand. And yeah, that lesson was straight from her. Then he clasped her hand and welcomed her as the new retainer of this territory. Next, he turned serious and laid out the orders for what's coming. They'll launch a northern expedition to prove they're not here to cause harm. The member will be Lillian, and the two dragons will be right there with her. When they're about to meet the Demon King, Arkard steps in and offers to go with them. While they're away, the hero hands the reins to Emilia and trusts her to hold down the whole territory. When he told her they'd be gone for about 3 months, the words hit like a countdown. Emilia's stomach twisted with worry, and it hit her hard. She only feels safe when she sticks with him. She knows it's a long shot with Hiro, but maybe, just maybe, something could happen, and this is the first time they'll ever be apart. She's trying to trust him, but a storm of thoughts keeps crashing through her mind. In moments like this, she just wants to say it the right way. Hiro promised her it was fine, and she promises she'll crush the negotiations, then swings back somehow. That's enough to make her feel safe and whole. Cairo leaned in and told the elite squad, "We're leaving at dawn tomorrow." then ordered them to brace themselves and get ready. Meanwhile, in the northern Rothwell lands, right by the northern fortress, trouble's waiting in the shadows. A woman on a blazing throne gets a fresh report, and it says the Rothwell forces have been wiped out completely. She never saw it coming. This kingdom shield everyone feared turned out to be barely anything, and their reputation alone crushed it completely. The one kneeling in the dirt snapped, "Don't drop your guard, something's moving in the southern territory and it feels wrong," while the woman on the throne stared at the gathered intel, and then she spots a familiar face, same old foolish grin on the ancient dragon, and realizes the divine dragon is right there with them too. Seeing the undead king and the witch of the great forest tag along too, she couldn't shake the feeling they were totally throwing the balance of power aside. So when she asked what kind of great fool would pull something like this, she said, she beamed the moment she laid eyes on their commander's adorable face. Yekaterina finally saw it. Her companion was here, and she couldn't help but feel thrilled because this was the missing piece that would one day turn into a great demon leader. Hiro and the crew finally lock eyes on the border between the world they've known and the one ahead. Right on the borderline between the Count's territory and the demon kingdoms. Because they can't drop straight onto the battlefield, they touch down on the hill first, then race to size up what's going on. They grimly stare at the horrifying wreck of it all. Oliver bolted, so all that was left were orders, and without a commander in sight, this is what happens when they keep fighting like that. A carriage is tearing through the streets, and something is hauling after it fast. Then they scramble onto the dragon's back, right as everything goes wild, and can slam onto the ground and give them the support they need. He ordered the great sage, the ancient dragon, and the vampire to lock down the front lines and told Joel to break free and let those people get out. The moment Jewel stepped in, her jaw dropped. There were familiar faces waiting for her. It's the stinky people who answer the moment someone asks, "So, why are you even here?" George snapped to his feet and told Hiro, "You failed because you didn't follow orders." To wipe away their shame, Oliver shoved a top-secret mission into their hands. The hero barked, "Evacuate right now." But George refused to leave the wagon behind. Those crucial supplies were the difference between survival and dying in the war. Their lives weigh less than this cargo mess up and their house gets wiped out. Hiro snaps at him, "Quit carrying it. If they've got no place to run back to, then they'll have to find their way into his territory." George couldn't tell if he was making fun of them, like, "Is this really what you're saying?" Hiro just cut in and confirmed it. Yes, he was right. His territory sits out in the middle of nowhere, barren, empty, and stripped of comfort, with no noble titles and no rich life to hide behind. And the tables packed with mouth-watering food and real smiles. Yet George, the noble, refuses to live on charity just to keep breathing. Arkard snarled at him to die on the spot, and then marched him straight into his undead army. Then he snapped his fingers, and his skeletons crawled into the world like they'd been waiting for orders, and blasted the idiot nobles with a warning that, so if they didn't want to be drafted into the undead king's army, they'd better get out of this place right now. Shaking with terror, George Group sprinted back to their mom in a blur. Hiro thanked him, but Arkard cut in fast, like, "We're in the way here and nothing else. You can't keep holding them back with threats anymore. These guys aren't backing down, not even a step." The two of them were seconds from obliterating the enemy. But Joel snapped back, reminding everyone that her papa had said no fighting. And just like that, the two of them swallow their pride and apologize. Hiro warned them that brawling would sink any chance of real negotiations, then asked if there was another peaceful way to settle it. The great sage shoved him toward her and said, "Hand it to her. Her magic clears brand new roads. If he wants it, even the impossible can be bullied into happening because that's her style, and she'll prove what makes her different from those dumb muscle brains who only know how to wreck things." She clenched her hand and pulled raw power into her palm. He leveled the weapon straight at the enemy before unleashing the spatial transfer magic, the exile force return kicked in. After he teleported straight into the enemy, she pulled Hiro into a hug, told him she'd sent them back, and leaned in to ask, "Are you satisfied?" The hero asked where she sent them, and she shrugged, like it had to be the demon leader's hideout. Watching his gloomy face twist as the demon invasion crashed in, Lillian made it crystal clear, this was all Oliver's fault. At first, the northern tribes and humans kept clashing in skirmishes, But if the Demon Kingdom shows up, won't that blow up the non-aggression treaty for sure? Even though they call it a treaty, it's really just a handshake deal, no rules that can be forced, no power to enforce it, more like a promise made in good faith to help and back each other up. Asgard is the trade engine of everything, but the Demon Kingdom steps in where the three nations can't reach, settling fights, smoothing tensions, and helping newer nations grow. And then there's the Holy Sassaka Duchy, the lawbringer, while the Pope keeps the world in balance under God's name. But if this war keeps spiraling, that treaty is suddenly useless, and it could ignite a full-blown world war. So what exactly is going on? Is his father tangled up in something this dangerous? He'll finally get it the second he sees this. She yanked open the carriage door, and there, trapped in a cage, sat a demon and an elf staring back. The hero couldn't shake the thought, was this human trafficking waiting to spring on someone? He replayed every word he'd just heard. Demon slaves were the kind of luxury some nobles and rich folks loved. But because of the treaty, getting them was brutally hard, and Oliver latched onto that opening. Even if Oliver pissed off the tribes, he figured he could crush them with his own soldiers. Because this stretch is a buffer zone with no owner, so he could probably spin any excuse he wanted. With the Demon Kingdom locked down by the treaty, Oliver took full advantage and ran wild in the open. Yet even that still didn't quench his craving because he's been robbing tribes for valuable loot, snatching their children and squeezing them for ransom. There's no difference now, he's just a bandit with a fancy story. Every coin he earned vanished fast into booze, women, gambling, flashy luxury, and shiny ornaments. So when the spending on thrills kept climbing, his debts ballooned right along with it. To keep himself alive and paid up, he slammed brutal taxes on everyone and kicked out anything that didn't fit. He'd do anything to save his own skin. Even though Hero's family thought it was straight up awful to go that far just to line his own pockets, he still kept chasing it. When those two powerhouses spotted someone eavesdropping, Yekaterina barks, "Bow your heads," and they obey. They're here because they're blocking the demon leader. Yekaterina, her soldier, got sent back, so she tracked the magical power and cornered them at this spot, and she'd already guessed it was the kind of power that only a great sage could wield. Lillian apologized. She truly thought it was the best move. Then reality hit, and somehow she'd pulled the worst possible outcome right into her lap. When Yekaterina finally set her sights on Hiro, the former son of Rothwell, everything shifted in an instant. Lillian snapped the order, "Protect Hiro, both of you." The two sprinted in fast, rushing to cover their master in, and they plotted to strike at the exact same time. Hiro tried to stop them, but that ancient dragon snapped the truth into him. Yekaterina wasn't someone you could talk down. After they pin her down, they can finally start talking. They lunged forward and tore into their targets without hesitation. Crashing into it with a deafening force, it hits like a thunderbolt. And when the dust finally settled, they were hammered into defeat. When Yekaterina let Arkard's body hit the ground, the hero's eyes went wide when he finally realized this was the demon leader's true power. Yekaterina whipped her head toward him, and muttered that she'd handle it herself, no one else would touch it. With a tomato-red face, she gushed to Hiro, telling him, soft as a love letter, to marry her. Watching his face twist into pure confusion, Yekaterina stared at him and wondered if he was unhappy with her, because she's convinced her body looks insanely attractive, even from a human's point of view. What's this supposed to mean? Why jump straight to marriage? This hit him way too fast, and confusion crashed in like a storm, so he had to get his head together and figure out what to do next. Gol and Lillian are trapped in this nightmare, and the worst part is, there's no way out for either of them. Then it'd be smarter to take the proposal for now, right? No, there's absolutely no way this is temporary. He'd take the demon leader down himself, but just as his mind locked in, Yekaterina stepped in and demanded to know what was wrong. It's not right to leave a woman in this state. So yeah, the hero shot back with a real apology, saying the place had completely thrown him off. Yekaterina instantly got what he meant, and with a sharp command she called Arnolet into action. The Chancellor of the Demon Kingdom. Then she snapped, "Change the location right now." Arnolet slid her glasses into place and reminded the leader, "I already told you atmosphere matters for moments like this." She was seconds away from barking orders to everyone to brace themselves, until Yekaterina stepped in and clarified. She's saying there's no need to haul everyone around. Actually, she's not even going to call those two idiots. Before the hero could even fire back, Arnolet flicked her fingers and vanished in a blink. Then, just like that, he got swept right into Yekaterina's demon castle, welcomed with open menace. But Yekaterina had no clue the divine dragon would actually show up. Now she's begging to hear Hiro pour out the hymn of love for her again and again, because once she sees there's no escape, it's the hymn of love, no retreat. The hero dropped to one knee, bowed to the demon leader, and said he was grateful for the offer, yet he couldn't take it. Yekaterina begged him to marry her for real, not as a concubine but as her first husband, and when he still said no, even after all that, he finally apologized. Honestly, he slipped in one bombshell. There was a woman he'd pledged his future to, and Yekaterina couldn't stop wondering who she was and what place she held. But the second her eyes locked onto the divine dragon, she knew she had zero chance of winning. Hiro leaned in and made it crystal clear. It was Joel. Because she's the one he trusts with everything, an unbeatable woman from the Warcatier tribe. Yekaterina shot him a piercing glare, demanded to know if he'd lost his mind, and basically dared him. Was a war cat really more attractive than her? The hero snapped back, insisting it wasn't like that at all. He just happened to fall for someone from the Warcatty tribe. Yekaterina erupted into wild laughter and blurted out. She told him, sure, teaming up with her could hand you power, maybe the ultimate power in this world, but you still picked the cat ears. And honestly, she knew her instincts for people were spot on. With that adorable face, she couldn't help but wonder what kind of mischief he was plotting. He came for gold and silver dragons, even the undead, and the moment I saw it, I knew the great sage I trusted was plotting something huge. His entire life hangs on one word. So when he finally answers that their purpose is diplomacy, she told him that if it was direct diplomacy with their country, then coming from the kingdom was totally fine. Hiro tells her they're pushing to slam a ceasefire deal between the Demon Kingdom and Rothwell Count's territory. Yekaterina snapped that this war was totally the fault of the humans, then leaned in and demanded he confirm. Count Rothwell was to blame, right? He knew this all too well. If that war kept spreading, he'd lose control of the core territory and refugees could start pouring into his land. Yekaterina shot him down, swearing that no matter what conditions he threw at her, she just couldn't take it. This chaos erupts because humans march into her territory and do whatever they want. Then the attacker storms in loaded with military muscle strong enough to flip the balance between nations and coldly barks enough, because another round of fighting would mess up their plans. If she said yes, her dignity would get crushed to the ground, but she gets why he's trying to guard his territory. Still, there's only one way to protect his turf without making a deal. He demanded that his territory break free from the kingdom of Asgard, right now. But the hero shot back furious, saying it was pure madness since the territory had only just been born. And yeah, this land was loaned to him by his father, so he never truly owned it. If they break away from here, then there's only one way it can end. So it explodes into an armed uprising. He can't stop the war he's helped ignite, and that fresh spark just keeps burning. Yekaterina steps in and tells him not to worry. She'd win the king of Asgard and the Pope over at the next three-nation conference. Then nobody would dare complain. And this plan doesn't just help. Hiro gets the real advantage too, because if the war drags on, Oliver is absolutely going to lean on Hiro's military muscle and move to seize his territory. The hero nodded along, saying that winning independence for the territory, so the citizens can finally live for themselves, is one of the goals he swore to chase. But managing it filled him with dread, so if that's really what he thinks, Yekaterina couldn't understand why he wouldn't accept her confession. If he becomes her husband, every human conflict finally gets crushed, leaving her to think the extra military power can be tamed under the Demon Kingdom's watch. And that's why she's nodding like it's all blessings, but he was just about to answer. But she slammed the brakes, refusing to beg, even after he rejected her. From a world politics angle, it's crystal clear. He needs to go independent, because both the ancient dragon and the undead king are national-level disasters waiting to blow the whole map apart. If they really swung first, Yekaterina wouldn't survive a second, but wait, didn't she wipe them out earlier? That whole moment hit like a sucker punch, no plan, no orders, just a full-on charge straight into the chaos. With that, she unleashed earth magic and nailed a perfect hit on a vital spot. Still, that last fight felt like pure luck, because if they clash again, this whole country could get wiped off the map. Those idiots live like they've got no rules at all, just doing whatever they want. If they had any way to lock them down, every country would thank them. And she's been getting crushed by their mess for ages. Back when she was a kid, an ancient dragon used to keep flipping her skirt, and now the undead king keeps swaggering in to steal the pricey alcohol she busted her butt to collect. That earlier fight finally tore through the grudge she'd been carrying for years. The hero fears that if one nation hoards this kind of power, the world's biggest powers won't stay quiet, they'll come for it. Yakitorino pushes the independence angle, claiming it's just coercion dressed up nicely. And if it works, she creates a tiny nation that's already won its freedom, ruled by a demon leader, forcing every other country to think twice before it dares to invade. Even if her promise sounded shaky, she snapped her order to Arnolet, bring the jewel right off that throne. With the jewel clenched in her hand, Yekaterina leaned in and swore she'd trust it to him. This was one of her family's heirlooms, and people said it would steer whoever wore it straight into even greater heights. If it were unleashed on the ancient dragon or the undead king, she knew his territory would get even more terrifying. But she wasn't about to turbo boost those idiots, so she pushed everyone to aim it at the divine dragon instead. She pressed it to Joel's forehead and commanded him to accept this piece of her soul. After that, Joel's look shifted, just slightly, but enough to send a weird chill through the moment. But Yekaterina never saw it coming. Gol was about to rise as a divine demon dragon, and the fairy tales were right. One breath from it could wipe the world clean. Joel hurried up to her papa, breathless with joy, bragging that she'd become amazing. Then she dropped to the ground, losing consciousness out of nowhere. Yekaterina snapped at him to stop panicking, saying the holy and demonic powers were just clashing and driving each other back. If she gets real rest, she'll be back to normal in a few days, so for now, stay put right here. Then later, she'll go invite everyone to the guest rooms. And she'll hand him the reins on when the Independence Declaration goes out. But before that, he has to get a grip on how national government actually works. He can pick up lessons in ruling from the Demon Kingdom's Chancellor, Arnolet, but Arnolet's already convinced it'll be a brutal challenge. And get this, his familiars spilled the intel. Oliver ditched the main territory and is now rushing straight for the hero's territory. At this pace, give it a couple more days, everything's about to blow wide open. The demonic Great Forest is about to be seized by Oliver. Deep inside the demonic Great Forest, Oliver asks if they've finally hit hero territory, but he can't stop panicking that monsters are about to swarm them. He snapped his eyes around the area. Mars spotted that restless look on his face and knew something was building, and asked with real concern in his voice if he was okay. Oliver snatched her clothes, yelling that he was the kingdom's guardian shield, like she really thought he'd back down from something like that. Right after they slipped into the forest, their carriage vanished and they were forced to trudge for days. Then he snapped at Hiro, calling him incompetent for failing to build roads and insisting he shouldn't get any territory at all. Mars tells him to look on the bright side. Oliver's stuck behind an admin desk and doesn't get enough exercise, so they've gotta hit the shade and work up a sweat. Because she loved that exercise so much, Oliver hooked an arm around her shoulder end. And he told her to go all out, because it had been ages and he planned to savor every inch of her. When Hero's village finally burst into view, they spotted the barrier that shrugs off evil with no defensive walls in sight, and yet the fields were so unbelievably fertile, full of farmers working the land like it was a feast. At last, they finally showed up and Oliver's mind went straight to one move: greet them like a proper lord. To line up ahead of time, the soldiers snapped to the order, and somehow forced their way inside the barrier. That Oliver just couldn't break through. So he turned to Mars and demanded answers about it. So the secretary yanked her door open. A divine revelation drops. Now you've got to analyze everything like it matters. She said a blood curse had been stacked onto a dragon's barrier, and that a legendary great barrier had finally been forged and raised. The dragon barrier slams shut on anyone with evil in their heart, and the blood curse turns saints into the caster's own bloodline. So now it looks like monsters that fear that barrier are converging on the forest entrance. Oliver snapped and demanded to know whether this mess was even Hero's fault, then kept grilling him on how much trouble Hero might rack up, until Oliver finally felt satisfied. Even though Hero was the eldest son, exile still crushed him, because he couldn't get the key revelation, and when Oliver finally showed up in the kingdom Hero built, everything nearly fell apart. Lillian ripped apart the deal he made in the north, but her thoughts wouldn't leave Hero alone, because there's a real chance Hero masterminded that whole incident too. Without the hero standing there, everything would have finally gone perfectly, until the world had to face what comes next. A war cat kid runs up to the old man and blurts, "So what the heck were you doing?" When he hears the soldier ripping into him for talking like that, Oliver snaps in and stops him before it escalates. Before he kicked that innocent kid, he spat that the kid was nothing but filthy livestock. Doc stared him down and demanded, "How dare you talk to nobles like that?" He barked an order at the soldier to execute that terrible offender. The soldier yanked his sword free and swung down, ready to end the kid right there. And then Wham got blasted by a stone. He slammed into him and knocked him clean off his feet. Amelia scooped the kid up and demanded answers about what they'd done. Because this land belongs to Lord Hero Rothwell and no one is allowed to cause outrages here. Fuming, Oliver demands, "Who do you think you are?" Because the livestock dares to talk back and then he presses her for who she really is. Amelia leaned in, told him her name, and swore she'd been handed control of the whole territory while the Lord was away. When they pressed her about the hero's location, she leaned in and dropped the truth: he's gone on a far-off trip. Oliver snapped orders to the soldier, "Go collect the taxes this village had been hiding and refusing to pay. Not just gold, every last stockpiled ration too. If they can't cough up the payment, they seize the women and kids to sell them, and anyone who fights back gets executed right there on the spot." Amelia snaps back that this turf doesn't belong to her, it's someone else's. But the old man made it crystal clear. This land belongs to the Rothwell Count family and he's only renting it out to Hiro since once Hiro's father was revealed. Amelia pointed out how this village was carved out from nothing by a hero, and even as a count, she's not buying that Oliver has any right to claim it. The old man tells her to stop making it sound so ugly and then goes, "What's wrong with the Lord taking taxes from his own territory? Like, he's just doing what he's meant to do. But the right way is simple. Hiro, the one running the village, hands it over. If someone tries to slap tax on it just to loot while the master's away with excuses, that's not business anymore, it's straight-up bandit work." Oliver snapped that plunder won't fly, then snarled at his own idiot son. Could he not even educate slaves? With that order, one of the soldiers seized her and she snapped that if he didn't let her go, she'd unleash her war cat power right on him. But the other soldier jabbed his blade right at the kid's neck. "Mess with him and Oliver will cut this brat down." Amelia's teeth clenched hard because she never saw that old creep try to hide behind a child. Well, Oliver's just using the authority he earned and she's the one acting ridiculous. So why isn't she the one who should feel embarrassed after screaming that there's nothing to be ashamed of? The old man ripped her clothes to shreds, and once he laid eyes on her flustered, embarrassed face, he couldn't believe it. Those beasts could feel shame too, just like real people, and honestly this is the discovery of the century. Tears spilled as she questioned whether he was really Hiro's father, and she couldn't wrap her head around how wildly different that father and son turned out to be. Oliver presses his hand to her face, willing her to feel their difference through her own skin. For a beast folk to share flesh with him, it's more than an act. It's a moment she'll carry forever, etched into her heart like a scar. He snapped at Mars to pitch a tent, daring her to admit whether she planned to parade his body for filthy commoners. As soon as the tent went up, Amelia tried to argue, but the soldier shoved his hand over her mouth and cut off her voice. Oliver snapped at her to stop crying, and he's dead sure this isn't her first time breaking down, like he's seen it happen before. Smirnoff can't help but wonder, just how many times has this old man pulled the same stunt and he steps forward and introduces himself, straight up claiming he works under Boss Hero. Now, Oliver said the whole truth out loud. Every citizen's job is to serve and please the nobles, so he needed to make one thing crystal clear. Nobles are not the same as commoners. Citizens answer to the Lord, so what belongs to his son belongs to him too, and anyone who works under his son falls under his rule as well. He can do whatever he wants with his stuff. No one's going to argue after hearing that, right? Smyanav's fists tightened hard. He thrust his fist forward and bolted straight at the attack, then snapped at the old man that he had an objection. Chapters stop at 28, and that's it. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you love this manga and have a great day.